live what I do. I'm a solutionary. And so, okay, so we're live on.
Okay, so we're preparing to live stream. It says, it's bringing back errors, but.
All right, I can't really deal with the website because it makes my system run slow.
Okay.
Somebody else.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just got a message that came up. There's an event. There's an event that's happening downstairs. So you're gonna start getting ambient sounds of the DJ.
Okay. All right, so Alfred, how are we doing?
It's connecting now, so just, it's in that.
Oh, it says live on YouTube in the top right corner of the.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, okay. Wow, okay.
We'll
Is
have-
there a link?
What's the what's the account?
It's coming up, whatever the link is, it'll be, let me get it for you, just a second.
So,
Okay, so here we go. So I'm gonna put this in a chat, and the chat it to you. Send a chat. Oops, what is happening here? Just a second. Okay, now this is the YouTube link. So I'm gonna, that is.
You can copy it and
It's
put it
in
on your
the
page.
chat here.
okay.
Right, because someone's waiting for this.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's the YouTube link.
Oh yeah, it's live.
Oh, you can see it, David?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm sharing it to my phone. So
Hold on, my video person is waiting for this.
Okay.
So I can get,
That's okay. Now, this is the YouTube link. So I'm gonna-
Wow, wow, wow.
You can copy it and
It's
put it
in
on
the
your page.
yeah.
okay.
Right, because someone's waiting for this.
Okay. Right.
Yes.
now, I'm trying to figure out how to mute the second.
oh yeah, it's live.
Oh, you can see it?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
exciting, exciting.
My phone. So
Okay.
Hold on, my video person is waiting for this.
Okay.
the question is, how can I share it?
Okay.
You can copy it and put it on your page.
Right, because someone's waiting for this.
Rose, did you want to start?
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how to mute the second.
Oh yeah. So right. So whatever device anyone is listening to the live chat on, you have to mute that, because then we'll get it in an infinite loop of sound.
David, do you mind putting that link up again? Because I'm not on my computer and I can't, I think there's like child stuff on here and I can't.
Yeah. I will. I think I have your.
You want to do it
number
through
on my phone.
Facebook or?
Let me see. Yes. Oh, that's your email. Don't tell me your number because we're live on. I'll send it to you in a Facebook message.
Okay, I hope I can even pick that up.
Is that the streaming link that was put up there
Yes.
before? Somebody's
Yeah, that's the
asking
one
me.
he put in the,
Let me see. I
in the
thought I
chat.
gave,
That's the-
somebody's asking me for this streaming link, and it's like, I thought that's what I gave her.
The link he put in is the streaming link. It worked.
Okay, all right. Hold on.
And it's only a couple of seconds lag. It's behind.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to put it on my Facebook page.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's some, okay, I see what's going on here.
come on.
Sorry, David, your attachment did not come through. I'm just gonna have to, I don't know. what's
Oh,
going-
it didn't.
No,
Come on.
I'm sending you my phone number.
Okay.
Ah, there we go.
Got it. Oh, it
Awesome.
came.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool. Exciting.
I don't know what's happening with this thing. It won't let me do anything.
Okay, well,
Okay.
we're now streaming live on YouTube.
Yes.
And so
Okay.
tell me when you would like to start recording, which means that we're officially then really starting.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a minute, Alfred. I'm just trying to post it on my Facebook page. I'm having a little bit of an issue.
Oh,
For some reason, I cannot get into my pages all of a sudden. This is what happens. So just
Yeah.
please bear with me for literally, it shouldn't take, I'm just reloading my page and hopefully it should be, we should be able to, I should be able to post the link, hopefully, so that my people can watch as well. I wonder if I can watch.
Isn't this amazing that this is where your $1 trillion defense budget goes?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm kind of making a small talk because in my earlier professional career, just starting out, we lived down in the Soho area south of Houston in Manhattan in New York, and this was back in the early 70s, and we took that was the artist district, and we took a loft that had been a warehouse, and my wife at the time was an architect, and we created a multi-level space, and we were surrounded by artists on our block, painters and everything, and our whole building was artists, and all the neighborhood had been manufacturing buildings from the 19th century, but then was taken over by painters and artists. So it was a whole area. So got to know the artists very, very well. So.
Well, for some reason it won't let me,
Yeah,
I
so
don't know, it won't let me copy the link.
yeah, I'm sure that
You-
that's part of the
Look at it.
outside
3
interference.
times, and every time I post it, it's completely a different link that's posted, which is really bizarre. Really bizarre. I'm copying it, I highlight it, copy it, I post it, and then when I post it, it shows me a completely different video, a video that I did like last week sometime. So
Yeah.
it's weird. I don't know why that's happening. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try once more. Alfred,
You're being
just bear with me.
targeted.
Sorry.
And I would urge you that we start the program.
Okay, just let me try once more, Alfred,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna, if it doesn't work this time, I give up.
And I think I'll put my 2 cents
All
in.
of this, by the way, is streaming live, but it's being recorded on the Facebook version of the Facebook video of this event. So
Right.
all of this is going to be on there.
Well, I can't do it.
As long
But I
as
think Alfred, that's okay, because we have to
That's-
understand technology and real time
that's
and
right.
all of this troubleshooting. And I think that anyone that's on this Zoom understands that there's these, no matter what you do and how many times that you're Zooming and holding these meetings, there's going to be these glitches because technology
Exactly.
is just so fast. You know what I mean? And I think that for artists in the right brain, sometimes my brain has to even shift to get ready for these type of meetings. And
God,
there's a
yes.
lot of troubleshooting. And I think that the people that are coming in to this conversation are going to understand that we're going to troubleshoot throughout the whole afternoon because this is a new basically art technology and how we're interfacing with that. So let me just make that our lens for right now for those people that are joining us. This is kind of the nature of this platform. So
Very well said, Alfred.
Okay,
Thank
so
you,
I'm gonna
Alpha.
try, I've got the link now. Just need to do this. Let me just, please work this time. Let's see. Is it gonna do it? Oh, Lord of mercy. Come
I
on.
want to thank you first and foremost for staging this for us, Seven, and also Rose for
That's
inviting
most
us to the
welcome.
platform.
yes.
And we all are in different parts of the
I
states.
think we got feedback going on, so it's opened up. Let me take it off.
Just turn
All
the
right.
sound off and it'll be fine.
Yeah, I turned it off. Okay, I just got one more attempt and that's it. Because I now have the link. It was giving me a different link and I don't know why this is happening. I cannot explain, but I'm gonna try this once more time and hopefully, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll accept it. So let me see. Come on now. Come on. Post. No. No,
So
it
all of
doesn't
us are
allow
in
me to
different
post it.
parts
It
of
doesn't
the
allow me
greater-
to post it. Why doesn't it allow it? Oh man. Okay. All right. I give up. I give up. I give up. I give up. I'm sorry, everyone. I had to
You'll still be
try.
able to share it post.
Yeah, afterwards. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just that if there were people wanting to do any questions, that would have been cool, right?
Yeah.
But it's okay. Let me just see. How do I make this back to what it was? Oh, right. I've got it. Oh my God. What's happened? Sorry, it's like this whole screen is just squashed. I don't know what's going. Oh my God. I think we're being sabotaged. If you see what's happening in front of my computer screen, you'd be shocked. You've all been sort of squashed. What is going on here? Where are you? Now you're gone. Okay. There's some sort of interference. Now you come back. Now, okay. All right. Alfred,
Yeah.
can you still hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. I am having some problems. There's some, it's technically speaking. Okay, when you're ready, you can.
Okay. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lamberwant Weber, and I have the extraordinary privilege today to introduce my colleague Seven from the UK and a company of artists led by curator Rose Cannon who's at the Evanston, Illinois Art Center, and her fellow curator, Alfred Bruton, who's also with the Evanston Arts Center, and other fellow artists whom I'll turn it over to Seven and to Rose to introduce them, and who will be carrying the program from here. So Seven and Rose, over to you, and welcome to Exopolitics TV.
Greetings, son, and greetings, and everybody, and also everybody who's viewing at home afterwards. Now, today we have a wonderful, prestigious, amazing show, and we're going to feature the work, inspirational work of some artists that are in America. And we're going to get the opportunity to see how they turn their inspiration into great works of art. And also in regards to the whole conversation, I think art and literature, music, all play a very big part of any revolution, every transition from one paradigm shift to another. I'm not sure if you can still hear me because my page has frozen. I don't know if you can still hear me, everybody.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'm having a few technical issues, everybody, so bear with me. But I want to turn it over to Rose, and she's going to tell us about her wonderful exhibition and introduce us to some of the artists that we're going to be speaking to today. So greetings, Rose. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Alfred and Seven, for inviting me. I'm a new gallery owner here in Evanston, Illinois. Evanston is the home of Northwestern University, and we're just outside of Chicago. I decided I am an artist by foundation. However, I decided that I wanted to begin to represent and buy other artists' work to represent in my gallery. I actually don't have a brick and mortar yet, but you can find all of the things that I hold. You can find them on my Facebook site at Canon Fine Art Gallery, or you can look in the evanstonartcenter.org site, and you can see all the works that I have for purchase and have for sale. Literally about a year or so ago, I was taking some art classes, and I was also taking an entrepreneurial class too. So I wasn't in the entrepreneurial class thinking of doing an art gallery. I was in there for some other reason. And the leader of the class said, oh no, you have to decide what business you want to do, and it has to be personal to you. I was there for some other reason. I have two sons that needed to open a business, and they were too lazy and busy to go to this class. So I thought I would go for them. And the teacher of the class said, oh no, it doesn't work like that. You have to do your own business here. And so I sat and pondered, and it was like, what do I love? What am I doing? And I was doing art classes at that time. And I said, I think I want to start a gallery. And so at that time I went about, I had a friend a close friend by the name of Fran Joy. She's one of the artists. I represent her too. Her work is also in my gallery, but she's also a curator also. And she and I hooked up again. We've been friends for a very long time before this collaboration. And I asked her, I said, Fran, I want to start working as in gallery business. I said, can you give me any idea about the best way to go? And essentially she told me, well, if I were opening up a gallery, I would do this. And she basically told me who to buy first. First, I had bought her. I had visited her and decided to buy a number of her works. And then she told me who she would suggest that I would buy. And I began buying a lot of William Kwahmena-poh's pieces. And William Kwahmena-poh is a Ghanaian artist that actually lived and worked here in the Evanston, Chicago area, but now is residing in Savannah, Georgia. So out of my collaboration with Fran Joy, we decided to do a number of pop-ups around the city. And we were involved in, because I don't have a brick and mortar and stuff. So we were affiliated with the Evanston Made Group, and that's the 1100 Florence Gallery. And we were invited to do, we did several pop-ups there. We were also invited to do the winter show at the Evanston Art Center. And literally the name of our business, Soulworks, started from the number of pop-ups we were doing around town. And we decided when we went into the winter show at Evanston Art Center, we took a number of the pieces that I held. Fran exhibited her pieces. They were pleased with our work, and they essentially offered us to do a show at the Evanston Art Center. So we started working on that about January 2020, but then in comes the pandemic and everything. We just didn't know where, everything shut down at that point. We were supposed to exhibit in April 2020, but that didn't happen. So finally, the Evanston Art Center decided that they were going to open in a very minimal way in order to practice social distancing, in order to practice all the things to limit the exposure to the pandemic. And they gave us a chance. They wrote us a lovely email, which when I first saw it, I just went blank when I looked at it. They offered us the first floor gallery, and we were just excited, afraid that we didn't have enough artwork to show there, and went around scrambling and did get enough artwork to open our small show in their first floor gallery, which of course is it's the most desired place, one of the most desired galleries here in Evanston to be exhibiting in. And I don't know if that answers you. Is 7 still there? Does that give you enough? Or I think we may have lost her, but anyway.
Alfred's still on the call.
Okay, I see you. Okay, I see you, Alpha. Is there was there anything that you wanted to support me with, Alpha, as I'm struggling with this?
No, but what I will do is I'll start your screen share, and it's just a short video that I put together, and then I'll do one in color, since we're we're waiting here. And you could talk over this one. This is Fran Joy, your co-curator.
Yes, that's Fran Joy. I've known her for about 25 years. And this was the, okay, that's a picture. Those are all the things from the Evanston Art Center show that we had. These are all pieces of art. That's, yes. Alfred.
It's just going to go really fast as your intro, and then I'll do a slower one in color.
Okay.
These are images that I had from the artists that participated so far in Creative Conversation.
That's William Kwahmena-poh. That's one of my first artists that I purchased. And William now lives in Savannah, but he's also very much attached here to the Chicagoland area. He has a lot of patrons that still buy his artwork, and I'm still getting quite a few requests to buy and frame his artwork and sell right now. He essentially ran a small gallery here. He was the manager of a small gallery, and I can't think of the name of it, but actually it was the first African-American art gallery here in Evanston. And that had to be at least maybe 15 to 20 years ago. And the owner of that gallery passed away very suddenly, and then everything shut down. The holdings of that gallery were inherited by the mother of the owner that died, and then all of his holdings just went into, they were inherited by his family and were no longer available. Now Alpha is showing the whole group of us of artists here, and here she goes with some more screen sharing. Okay, that was from the Evanston Art Center show, and this is some of the promo work that that they did out of the Evanston Art Center, and this is for yes, this is for our current show that we just finished. It opened June 15th and it closed on July 5th. The promo work showing, the picture is, the artwork is from Michel Delgado, and he's one of the artists that I represent in my gallery. And these are the various bios of all the artists that are represented. Many of them are here today and stuff. We have, of course, we have Alpha, we have Baz Cumberbatch. David Anthony Geary is here. He's one of our exciting ones too. When we were deciding to invite David, Fran really wanted to include David, and I didn't know much about David, but have gotten to know his art. I've gotten to know him, and he's one of our premier artists in the group. Fran Joy, of course. David Johnson Niari is here, and David is he's like my little son. He was one of the first artists that I began to collect his work and interviewed him. A relative of his, of Niari's, called me and said, "Oh, I have an artist that you need to look at." And I said, "Oh, I didn't know you were into artwork." And she said, "Well, I'm really not, but I know you'll like his work." And so I said, "Okay, well, let me contact him." And then we met at a bagel shop. Fran Joy and I met him at a bagel shop, and he showed us his beautiful painting called Inglewood, and I just fell in love with it. And Inglewood was the first painting or the first artwork to sell out of our June and July show. The second behind that to sell was David Geary's She Is Me. That was sold second, and we were excited that David sold also. And we have Sholo Beverly is here with us today too. And Sholo did the Evanston Art Center parking lot ground mural for Black Lives Matter, and that was so exciting. And I don't know if Alpha can get that up or not for us, but okay. And this is the work of Michel Delgado, and he's an artist that works here in Chicago, but right now he's down in Key West, Florida, on his way back here maybe by August time. And that's Baz Cumberbatch. He's also here. He's going to speak. And this work, I'm not sure whose work this
It's
is.
Boz.
Is that Boz? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I selected that piece when I set up his interview for Blog Talk Radio Creative Conversation.
I love that. I do.
Yeah, I do.
I like that.
This artist.
And this is William Kwahmena-poh. He works out of, this is a picture of a Ghanaian woman in a market, I guess, selling bowls and stuff. This one has already been bought. I did have that in my gallery, and it's very colorful, and it's very important. A lot of people liked it and stuff too. William works a lot. This is David Niari's work. This is called, if I'm not mistaken, it's called, I can't remember the name of it. Niari, David, do you remember the name of this?
A season.
A season. One of my friends wants to buy it and stuff until she found out how much it sells for. But it's a beautiful piece of work, and we loved it. We loved it. We loved having it. And this is the gallery as you look down it. That is Alpha's work directly in front of us there, with the American flag and with the picture of yes, here we go. Alpha, tell us a little bit about that.
This is part of my Homeland Security Health and Human Service series, that our children are still at the border. There was, at the time I did these in 2018, there was 100 children that were under the age of 5 that were still at the border without parents, and parents that have been sent back. And the first panel is, I try to do my social justice work working with children under the age of 5. This is not only this series, but the other social justice work as well. And the little boy, of course, with the green hat, he's our border patrol. 3-4, the children are watching us. He's watching us through the monitor, the TV, when the football, we're taking the knee. All of those are subjective narratives in the piece. And then, of course, is the other little rascals here, where I call this "The grass is greener on the other side," where it's a stylized picture of Donald Trump and the North Korean leader, Kim Jong.
Okay.
The other panel that went with that is, now that, we, the people, and it was when the Trump administration put a, where the Muslim nations could not enter the United States. So this is 3 in a series of work that I'm creating around social justice and Homeland Security that I entered in the exhibition.
Yes, absolutely. It was very colorful. And that's William Kwahmena-poh again, our Ghanaian artist. And that's some of William's work.
Okay, that's a short PowerPoint that I put together for you.
Wow, it's beautiful. Thank you. I did miss the beginning because I had an issue, as you probably noticed. Unfortunately, hopefully you can still hear me. Can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I apologize. My computer completely crashed and I had to try to log in. So I did miss the beginning of your presentation, unfortunately, but thank you, Alpha. Now, I'd like to talk to some of the artists.
How about David Anthony Geary? I know you've prepared something, David, right?
Sure.
So would you like me to just do the screen share and kind of talk while I do that?
Yeah,
Okay, that
that's
sounds
amazing.
excellent. I believe I can screen share. And Zoom. Start broadcast.
David, maybe tell us a little bit about you. How long have you been doing this?
Yes.
And
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Recent works. So I put together a gallery of some stuff, and I don't think I can go back and forth between my face, or maybe you can see my face.
Wow.
So I'm gonna zoom in and on the individual pieces. So I'm an artist that I was born and raised in Chicago. My career as an artist started in New Orleans after some college major changes and a few life decisions. And I've been pushing this career as an artist for 25 years now. And one of the consistent threads throughout my work there's always been portrait work. And the work has always very much centered Black folk. And because representation, both of our humanity and our culture, has always been a huge part of the work that I create. So I gathered sort of a disparate grouping of my work that allows you to see some of the different mediums that I work in. And so I'll just kind of fly through the pieces.
That's beautiful. Tell us about this piece, because she looks 1920s. And
yes, so these are two pieces from a series I did in 2016 about the Great Migration. And so they're images of folks who were a part of America's, so 7 for you, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Great Migration as a piece of American history.
Okay.
In between 1916 and about 1969, roughly 6 million Black folk moved from the rural South throughout the rest of the country.
Right.
And it shifted America's culture. So a lot of what those of us in northern states understand as Black culture is very much a Southern influence because of this huge movement of people and the culture that they bring with them across the country, right? There are existing Black communities all over the country, but during that period of approximately 60 years, there's a major shift in the culture of America and the lives of all of these Black families. And so I did a project in 2016 that sort of chronicled that through the use of the photograph, because at the same time, personal photography also became a thing. The Brownie camera had just become popular and people were starting to take their own photographs. And so there is this
David,
Yes.
tell 7 and our international viewers why there was a great migration in the United States.
Absolutely. So the southern states, so there's segregation, rampant racism, lynchings, difficult economic hardships, and there was in the South, and there was a promise of greater opportunity, peace of mind, and safety for families who would move north. There were literally advertising campaigns done to further this desire to have folks move around to other places in the country to escape the oppression of what was very much the Southern norm. And so over that period of time, that movement happened. And so it's one of the largest movements of folks in American history, 6 million people over the course of roughly 6 decades. And moving from one particular region to the rest of the entire country. And so there's a series of pieces. So it's going to jump through a few different types of work.
Can you just go back for a minute? Because I noticed the grain is wood.
Yes.
Did you actually do the piece onto wood, or are you just
Yes.
displaying it? Oh,
No,
wow.
so those pieces are painted directly on door panels.
Wow.
And so symbolically, they serve as an entry point or an exit point to it, or transition point in these people's lives. And so each of the 12 pieces that are on wood panels are actually doors.
Okay.
So they're 36 by 80. The collection of 8 of them are currently at the University of Chicago.
Wow.
On
They're
a long-term
masterful.
exhibition. Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely. I'm just astounded. Amazing. Thank you. You can share the next one.
Yeah. So this is an example of some of my portrait work. So I have a history of primarily doing contemporary subjects. The Great Migration Project was my one major historical project. Most of the rest of my work is very contemporarily focused on the people and world around me. But from time to time,
can I just ask, because your style, you have these sort of circular.
Yes. So
what's the significance of that, if you don't mind me?
It has multiple significance, yeah, for real words. There are a lot of different reasons that I do it. At its core, it is the most comfortable way for me to delineate form. All right, it's rooted in a particular style of drawing called contour drawing.
Okay.
And over the years, it has sort of become this very topographical map-like structure of form. And so in this sort of discovering of a form, I start to see these patterns and shapes that emerge in the contours and in the way light hits a subject.
Wow, absolutely phenomenal. I actually, you have, because this period is something that I remember. I mean, I grew up in the 70s.
Yes.
And so when the Jacksons, every other household looked like this. They had a big afro.
So this piece was actually for the 50th anniversary for the Black Panther Party's Chicago chapter.
Wow.
And I was invited.
So this is Angela Davis here, right?
Right. So it's Angela Davis, Elaine Brown, and Kathleen Cleaver.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to focus on the women of the Panther Party. And so I did that piece it was a major exhibition that's been kind of traveling around the country. And they have selected multiple artists to create work around the history and culture of the Black Panther Party and its importance.
Well, Alfred, can I just tell you that Alfred used to be the attorney for the Black Panther parties back in that day. So Alfred, what say you when you see this? You have to come off mute.
Yeah, that's right. It's quite a thing of history. Actually, I wasn't the I intervened as a cooperating attorney for the New York Civil Liberties in the 1969 Black Panther case, when the FBI tried to frame the Black Panthers for an alleged plot to blow up the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, wow.
And we intervened in that case, such that when the case went to the jury, it was dismissed within a couple of hours because they were trying to railroad them. But yeah, I mean, those were really very, very powerful times. And it's just amazing that this amount of history of what is a very powerful social justice organization. I used to go out, I was a young attorney in Manhattan then. I used to go out to Brooklyn on the weekends when the Minister of Defense of the Black Panthers used to give speeches. And you know, this was a social justice organization which the FBI and other instruments of the state were really misrepresenting. So that's my
Right.
comment.
Okay.
Well, this is powerful. That's a
Thank you.
powerful depiction of that time. It's so unique. At the same time, for many of us melanated people around the world, they resonate with this because you captured the spirit of the time. It's powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. I also do a fair amount of digital work.
Okay.
And so this is from a series that I started last year called Cosmic. And it's still in progress. I've got maybe about 3 or 4 pieces in that series completed that are digital works that are specifically thinking about the future and our sort of universal connection. And so there is an interplay between cosmological energies and sort of the properties of the universe and then the human experience. And so I've been playing with that visually.
Okay.
This is one of the pieces that came out of that.
Okay. So can you describe this section here where he's actually going? Is he going through a portal or what's happening?
Yeah. So there you'll see circles in my work that are sometimes behind people or that they're literally passing through. And they tend to, on one level represent sort of very on the nose, the hoops that we jump through in the world that we live in, right?
Right.
Like there's this constant traversing of obstacles
Right.
that is very much a part of the human experience in
Absolutely.
becoming our best selves and just in living in this world. Like we kind of constantly have to jump through hoops. And so it's a symbolic representation of that.
Yeah. What's your website for people to
Yeah.
be able to see more of your work?
So everything is David Anthony Art. The website is davidanthonyart.com. And then all of my social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is all at David Anthony Art.
Wow. Okay.
All
thank
one
you.
word.
Okay, we'll have to get yours, Alpha, as well, because I don't think we got your details in that way. So we need to get your details as well, Alpha. Now, to tell us about this.
So this was, I wanted to show you guys just a little bit of process, visual of what it looks like working on something digitally. So this is a digital piece that I'm creating on my iPad. And so I took a photograph of me working on the piece digitally. And it's a different relationship with the artwork because it is not materials based, right? A lot of the other painting work is very much materials based, but digital work, you don't have the same material limitations. You have a different series of limitations, and so I've been playing a lot around with like what it looks like to create work with no physical materials. So another example.
Is this a picture? Is this a photograph of your hand that you've actually painted over and manipulated?
No, so it's a full out drawing / painting, but it's all done digitally. So all my work is rooted in a photograph. So there's a photographic reference.
Okay.
I've always been the kind of artist that works from an actual reference. I'm just very much rooted in realism, even though I stylize my work quite a bit. It is very rooted in realism. This was a project of sort of playing cards as archetypes. And so this is the King of Hearts or the King of Love.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Does it have the other suits or is it just that one?
It's just that one for now. What I tend to do is if I have an idea for a project, I will at least do one piece to set as a reminder to myself to come back to it. And usually, there are projects that I started 5 years ago that I might just get to today. Like, there are way more ideas than there is time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another one of my portraits where I play a little bit with geometry and sort of visual representations of magic. This
Of what,
is
sorry? Did you say magic?
yes, so visual representations of magic. So sort of
Wow.
the geometry plays with this idea. So I've always kind of had the philosophy that there is there's this concept that a technology that is far enough advanced from what we are capable of understanding is indistinguishable from magic, right?
That's
And
right.
so like what we're capable of now 100 years ago would have looked like magic to people who lived, 100 years ago. The idea that we're all having a conference and seeing each other and sharing work instantaneously, completely different from across the world, would have sounded magical 100 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I play with that.
Even impossible at one point,
Right.
some of the things it would have been hard to conceive. But you're absolutely, but there is a sort of a marriage between sacred geometry and
Yes.
art and the spiritual realm and the creative
Yes.
realm as well. So I think this depicts it very, very beautifully. Absolutely breathtaking. Your work is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
This is an example of mural work. So it's a large scale mural, maybe about 12 by 20 feet or so. And so taking my style and doing it at a much larger scale. It's another mural project.
What was that? What that was about sisters? I mean, what was the message in this particular piece?
This was specifically commissioned for a building in Chicago that is an arts residence. And so I wanted to focus on, I tend to focus on women of color in my work as an amplifier of stories and voices. And so these are all creative women who live or work in the Chicago area. So they're all portraits of actual creatives.
Actual women? Okay. Yeah. Right, okay. That's fantastic. Yeah. And do you have a booklet or something where people can, have you put together a book of your work?
I have a book for 2 small projects, but generally seeing my work is a more of a digital experience, unless you're a studio, unless you're local and you can do a studio visit or come to an exhibition.
Right. This is powerful. So this is you at work. Now,
yes.
Tell us about this piece. Obviously, you've got 2 hands here.
Yes. So this is the University of Chicago commissioned me to do. They have a wall that is an entire chalkboard, and so I created a piece about American identity. And so it's sort of a timeline of history of how like the fluidity of American identity and conversations about immigration, culture, work, and this concept of us and them, right? And so the listing of things, us, them, hope, pride, fear, love, labor, life, are all sort of connected to the work. This is a really large wall. It's probably about 100 feet long. And so this is just the beginning section of it. And so, I play a lot around the conversations I have around the work, and sort of, rather than like thesis or manifestos, there are these little sort of tidbits or ideas that I've started to incorporate into larger scale work via text.
Right. That's beautiful.
And then this is a studio shot.
Sorry, I wanted to ask you, David, how long it took you to do that? Is it all with chalks?
Yeah, so it's a liquid chalk, which allows it to have some longevity. So it has to be washed off instead of just wiped off. All
right, okay. And you have a quote on the side as well. I wanted to ask you what it says.
Sure. So that one is, identity is an intangible thing, something that is felt, complex and evolving, with the potential to unite and or divide us, right? This idea that the things that we are, or the groups that we belong to, kind of form our identity. And sometimes the exact same series of things that we use to, attach ourselves to one group is the same group of the same set of parameters that are used to exclude us from another group.
Right, exactly.
And the identity is this very fluid, complex thing.
Very much so. Very much so. So is this piece still there? Is it still?
Yes, this is currently there. So I did this at the top of the year. No, I'm sorry. I did this October last year.
Okay, and where can people see this? Where would people go to see this?
So this is at the University of Chicago, the School of Public Policy.
Okay.
And it's also on their website, University of Chicago's website, and they've done a little video interview where I talk about the project, which was really cool.
That's really amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal piece. And again, you've got the same circular
it's
statement.
in all of my figurative work.
It's your signature, very much so. I think I would be able to identify your work anywhere. If I saw a piece of and that's a really mark of a brilliant artist, is that you can identify them in their work. It's unique enough to make that statement. So it's davidanthonyart.com for anybody who wants to go and see.
I'll switch back to me so you guys can see me.
Okay.
Wait, maybe.
Right, I can see a really cool picture of you.
That is a
cool. Okay.
That's a very cool picture of you.
Oh, is that me with my glass? And that's my Facebook.
Yeah. Oh man. So, who inspired you? I mean, what took you to the journey?
Sure. I would say the key, most influential human as far as my artist career would have been my mentor, John Scott, in New Orleans. So I went to Xavier University in New Orleans, and John T. Scott is an artist out of New Orleans who is a painter, printmaker, sculptor. And the key piece about his influence really was that creative expression, art and art making is like language, right? And historically, artists are pushed to focus on a particular specific thing, right? And so, and if you walk into a space and you work in 7 different styles, they call us scatterbrained, right? But if I walk into a room and I speak 7 different languages, somehow I'm a genius. And so to take this approach of art and medium and concept and play with that as if it were language, because it is a form of communication.
Right.
And it is okay to have multiple ways of expressing, right? And so like today I shared my figurative work, but I have an entire body of non-objective abstract work that I do. I have a history as a ceramic sculptor, and there's a lot of different stuff that I've done over the last 25 years that I still kind of tap back into. I build stuff, and clearly I dabble in a little horticulture.
All right. and how easy is it for you to display your work? It's something I want to ask all of you. How easy is it for you to exhibit your work? Are there platforms as a melanated person?
Not as easy as if I wasn't.
That's true.
I've never expected it to be easy. So I guess I've never looked at that, really thought about, how easy or not easy it was. I understand that there is an anomaly that in the, understanding that automatically makes me have to put myself in the context of the broader culture, right? And then there become these other conversations about what the work is about. The overarching idea that, all artists of color have to make work that's political, and so there are spaces that have no desire for any of my non-objective abstract work, which is completely apolitical. It is about color, texture, and form. And it is very rooted in the material and not a conversation about anything external at all. And then there's, you know, my portrait work, which is only political because we live in a crappy world. Because really they're just big, beautiful portraits of Black folk. And it's only political because that's not the norm. That's not an accepted or understood norm. If I was painting giant portraits of white people, nobody would bat an eye about it being political work or being revolutionary or social justice work, right? And that's kind of my goal, is to keep creating these sort of monumental, because my scale has been going up as far as the scale of work that I've been doing, is to create enough monumental work of the folks that are in my world until it is just normative and it's not a big deal anymore. And then the work just gets judged on its merit as a beautiful portrait.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely as a style, I think it's very, very unique. And like you said, whether it was about a Black person or a white person actually shouldn't make a difference. The fact that it does is add something to
the fact that it does isn't really a conversation about the work. It's a conversation about society.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, thank you. And just for anybody who wants to come and see your work, do you exhibit a lot, or you get to exhibit?
I mean, how do we define these things? A lot. Like, I mean, it's
you have a large body of work.
I've had one exhibition. Thank you very much, Rose. Since the beginning of
You'll have a lot more after this. I mean, you know, all art gallery owners that are watching this, I mean, you know,
I try to do, like, outside of the context of the pandemic, I try to do 2 solo shows a year, and then maybe like 4 group shows. So I try to be exhibiting at least once every quarter, somewhere. And so, you know, 4 group shows in a year and 2 solo shows, and I'm happy.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. I absolutely love your work. Love your work, and I am very interested to check it out, to get you know, more familiar with what you do.
For anybody who wants to just, I'm super easy to reach. You know, Baz can tell you we just became friends in the middle of the Zoom on.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
So like
Okay, had you met each other, because you all were part of Rose's a recent exhibition, and had you met each other before?
So I know Alpha and Sholo from outside of that, but then I met Rose as a part of the show. And David, I feel like we've been in the same room before, but
really? Okay.
Yeah, I feel like we've been in the same room before, but I don't know. I can't officially say that we've met.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll get into a same room soon. So.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Well, you know, as soon as all of this is over.
Enough. So thank you, David. You're awesome. Yeah, absolutely, your work totally rocks, and I can see that there's a lot of opportunities to marry, even for musicians. You know, do you work with musicians ever? You know, for musicians and artists to come together. And
I've been trying to find a way that doesn't feel like I'm an addendum to the music.
Right.
If I can, I would love to work with musicians. I just don't want it to feel like backdrop.
Yeah, no, in a really meaningful
like a true collaboration.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, there's definitely room for that. Thank you, David. I feel like I didn't get to really speak to Alpha. So Alpha, you showed, I just saw the end of what you exhibited, and you know, you had one particular piece where it looked like it was the flag that was morphed into the face of the child. And that was very, very powerful. I mean, did you just display your own work, or was there other people's pieces from today's panel as well? I didn't, because I missed a lot of it, Alpha. You have to switch on your, you're muted, Alpha, if you can hear me.
I can hear you. For Soulworks, I presented those 3 pieces, and they were part of my art and social justice work on a Homeland Security, Health and Human Services. And while we were waiting, I pulled up some other images as well. So let me get back to, I'm going to show you this folder because I had that ready to go. And then I'll get back on those pieces that I put in that exhibit. And I don't know if Sholo's still texting me. But part of the, here we go.
Okay, so what are we looking at, Alpha?
Just a minute, I need to pull it up. So I'm having some.
Is that a phone? Is that your phone? Or?
Cheryl is texting me pictures, so I can't do anything about it right now. Okay. So she has to wait a minute because it's making my system run slow, and I have her image already ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what you're hearing that. So what I'm trying to do is open it up. All right, here we go. This is an image that, like my system is slow, but it's part of the series that I was working on with social justice. And this piece seemed to be more offensive to people because they couldn't understand. Did you guys see it at all, or?
Can you open it up so that we can look at because we're looking at them as thumbnail type size images at the moment.
This is what happens when you working on everybody else's stuff. As a curator, sometimes I get mixed in with other, so I was, see it's in the small thumbnail right there. Or I'll go back to our actual slides from earlier. The slide presentation and talk about the work and come back to that.
You won't be able to, you can't open them? I mean, the little boy that was holding, was it a gun to his head? That was really powerful. I really, really want to see those. I think they're really important pieces.
Yeah, you can come back to me. I need to put, just a minute. I was working on someone else's stuff.
Okay, so don't worry. We can go to
and close this screen because Cheryl is going to talk about her Black Lives Matter. So now my stuff is kind of like, are you seeing this on the screen?
We can see is just thumbnails of some paintings, some photographs maybe.
Right. So what we'll do,
we can come back to
go
you.
on. Yeah, come back to me so that I can finish my slides.
Thank you, because I feel like your work is so important. We definitely have to feature it, you know. So we're going to talk to David Niari. Hey, David. Did I say your name wrong?
Nieri.
Nieri. Okay. How you doing, David? Two Davids. That's so cool. Yeah. So, tell us about yourself, David.
Hi, I'm
you're a painter as well?
A visual artist. Yes, I'm a visual artist. And I'm gonna try to bring up some work.
Okay. And where are you from? What's your? Oh wow. Wow.
A visual artist from Chicago. Grew up in Evanston, Illinois here. Are you seeing the work? I'm gonna try to bring some stuff up. Grew up in Chicago. Grew up, I guess my influence began with my brothers being older brothers who are older than me. I guess I would see their work and I'd be challenged by it. And so I think seeing their work, at the time it was called social realism. So I would see, so I think I was raised in an environment where art always meant, it always played a role in saying something. So my inspiration, I guess, was them, but
So when
also,
you say your brothers, you had brothers that are painters as well?
I did. I had an older brother who was also a portrait artist who did a lot of work. Who was, I guess, I guess he was a star type of artist in schools and stuff. So I was inspired by his work. He did a lot of, I guess we would call it social realism, where it would be scenes from inner city images, or grew up in the 80s. So we would see images of, like, I remember the USA for Africa, images that inspired me to see how art could be used to inspire and draw awareness. So that began just the journey of always looking into how I could use my art to begin that pathway to saying something. Superheroes growing up was inspiring. I didn't know, and the friends that are around me, that we all created heroes, and they were actually Black superheroes, because we didn't know that there was, as artists, you just create yourself.
Absolutely.
So we just created our own superheroes. And so I think there was always this edge of a social justice means of trying to, relate that into my work.
Yeah, I think it's a very important, there is definitely a marriage between the two things. It's a necessity, the art world, and because art depicts life, and it also has the capacity to create the unseen, and to be part of designing, designing the narrative of where we go from here. We are creators in terms of the world that we want to see. We immortalize it by creativity, whether it be sound or vision. And so it's such an important medium that we're not always, as melanated people, we're not always seen in our true light. That's why this is a really important panel for me today, to celebrate the genius, the genii of, my melanated brothers and sisters. This is powerful. Tell us about this piece.
Yeah, I love the expression that you said about in this time us being as torches in this movement. And I really agree with that. And so I'm inspired just by that energy. That's the same energy I like to bring into my work. This piece, I think, in the vein of works, in what David was speaking about in terms of languages, I love that what he was speaking, how we speak fluently in forms. So I guess this would be an interpretation of a different language that I'm speaking here. I'm basing it on my desire to affect the person that is viewing it by using natural colors and by staying in a vein that I think people are more familiar with in artistry, would seem. And so, so I'm always thinking in a vein of how can I relate to the audience? How can I do something for myself that's also going to entertain and keep me interested in working? This image, I wanted to go with the pastels. I wanted to do something friendly, I would call it, for my audience, something soft, apolitical, but in the sense of being very political, without telling you that I'm being political. So it's like my little sneak punch. This image is from Sudan.
Okay.
And so I captured a friend of mine who was taking photographs. I was able to combine some images that he had to begin to tell a certain story. And so I just wanted to kind of bring out in my storytelling of this images that for the background, for those that might see it, they wouldn't know that I call it fleeting moments, because in this moment where the photographer came, these children were in a refugee camp. And so this, the refugee camp is not fun. It's not a place that you want to be. So the custom or the situation is that people stand still, they don't move. So we were taken into like a background scene of this. And so the photographer had the children run as if a game to kind of bring life to the camp. And so I call it fleeting moments to say that this was just only a moment of joy, only a moment of joy that was captured. But it also, you know, has a broader message that things are fleeting. And so in some of the art, I'm trying to be the torch, but also human. And so as we spoke of earlier, as artists, we want to just draw an apple or a scene of some daisies. But the work is such that, you know, I have to mix both of my worlds and say something political in a scene where I can also get to draw some daisies to make my work a little bit less harder on myself.
Okay. And how long does a piece like this take you, if you don't mind me asking? Because it's incredibly, I mean, it's so evocative. It has the feeling of kind of urgency, you know. I mean, even though you're using very smooth and brush strokes and things, you can feel the quick, you know, you can feel the energy of them scurrying, you know. So how long does it take for a piece like this?
About 3 months, because this
wow.
Tell us how large it is. Tell us how large the original is.
So the piece itself is like 8 by 4 feet. So it's large.
Wow. Wow.
So I do that just to make it interesting for myself. And I love large images. I love to immerse myself. Or someone to see it, they would almost, it's like bigger than them. So they would fall into it to really try to put them in the place for a moment. I love that people gather different stories from it. So.
Where do you exhibit your work? Do you know, you were at the gallery with Rose. Was it is it called Everton Gallery?
Evanston Art Center.
Evanston Art Center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so where do you show your work?
There are galleries that I participate within. There's a Gallery Gashard here in Chicago that I work with sometimes when I do work. Do solo work, do solo showing, do a lot of group showings, which is really my forte, because I really work maybe one piece a year. I look to create, usually because they're large or difficult or time consuming. I just really focus on trying to at least 1 or 2 a year, depending on the medium.
Okay, and your website is David Niari?
Yes, davidnieri.com.
Nieri.com. Okay, so that's for anybody that is interested in seeing your work, booking you, any of the artists that are featured here today. So did you have any other pieces that you wanted to show us? Can you still hear me, David?
Yes, I guess I'm trying to.
All right, okay. It is extremely beautiful. Very, very beautiful. And I think that
Scary.
I wanted to ask you as well, as a melanated man, how do you find the art world? I mean, is it difficult to be able to dedicate, because this takes dedication, what you and David do, you have to engross yourself, you know, you are the art, you know, so how is it for you as artists to survive? And wow, whoa,
This
whoa,
is
whoa.
this
So
is
I'm-
Inglewood. This
What
is
showing? I'm not sure what's.
Wow.
Inglewood.
Oh, the Inglewood show.
Mhm.
Wow.
Okay.
This was the first. This was the first one that sold in our exhibition show. And David Anthony's was behind this one. David Anthony's was second.
Right, okay.
called, yes, Inglewood. And basically, as a Chicago artist, I grew up very influenced by the art culture that was that started, I guess, hip hop from '79 here. The golden age in hip hop here was in '91, which pretty much was when I started really coming to who I was. And that actual time was when Spike Lee premiered Malcolm X to theaters. And so I read the autobiography of Malcolm X that year because I wanted to be ahead of the film. So I read it as, you know, in high school, and it influenced me. Obviously, it influenced any Black man that reads the book. And it definitely began to change everything that I thought about myself and the world. And so it really took my art to a different level in this terms of what I wanted to say every time I picked up a pencil. So this, what many would say in hip hop world, is the digital form of a sample. We're sampling music for the OJs or James Brown sample. Took a digital sample of Picasso's work,
Guernica.
and I wanted to use, like, basically, you know, how we'll use a James Brown beat. I wanted to use a Picasso's message that he gave for war, and I wanted to translate the image into back to myself, you know, when I thought about it, which he spoke of was anti-war. And so in the sense of, I guess, as artists, the focus has, you know, it's not really COVID-19 or the pandemic, you know, the war has always been, you know, at home already. So overcoming the things that forced us to go into the big migration of the 20s and 40s and things like that. So this focus is really back on the home and the community, the broken Black community. And so I wanted to speak, you know, to say that, you know, the message is for maybe the outside audience that Black Lives Matters, but we're still working on, you know, what matters in the Black lives in our own home, which is still one of the greatest pandemics we're still working through. So this work kind of talks about that. And I was afraid to create it at first because I didn't want the backlash of someone saying that, well, you're dragging the things that are in our closet out to the public. But I just wanted to continue to speak on those, you know, whatever, that these are the situations. So almost in times where if we would go back, this is the art that of my generation, because this is what was happening in my generation. So this is the graffiti that's on the wall, and that you could, you know, so maybe in 30 years from now, people are like, what is Black violence? You know, whatever, that's been out of style. But well, in 2020, it was front page. History making in Chicago. So as an artist, I have to speak on that.
Absolutely.
And it begins definitely in the home. And so this work kind of says a lot, many different messages.
David, tell us the original size of the original of this, because this is a very large one also. And what we're seeing here is the print.
So this is the treatment, which I call, but I would love to, the work that's being prepared is the 12 by 25 version of this. as the mural on canvas version, which would be a different version as well. So as art, it's morphing into a new message. But this was the treatment that I created to create the mural that I would like to create.
Right.
And this was the first piece of art that I saw of David. The friend called me and said, I have an artist that I want you to see his work. And I said, oh, okay, sure. And we met at a bagel shop. And David was very reticent to bring he had a huge print that was framed, and he was very reticent to bring it in. And I said, well, where is it? I have to see it. And when he brought it in, it really, it affected me. It caught my eye, and
Wow.
and I was I was emotionally affected by this. And I said, this is Guernica, but depicting Inglewood, which is a South Side community here, and actually a community to which I have some very indirect attachment to, and it really shook my soul, which is what my artwork does. The artwork that I choose to display usually has some emotional effect on me. It makes me feel a certain way. And this one particularly did. And so tell them a little bit more about the success that you had with this print. You were accepted into the Museum of Science and Industry Creativity Show. Tell us about that.
Yeah. It was a part of, it's captured some other people. So I've shown the work. So I've been grateful because one, it opened the idea that I wasn't speaking too harshly. I wasn't taking something out of the closet that people weren't too unhappy about being revealed. So I was very grateful, and it inspires me not to hold back, I guess, some subject matters that I would like to speak on artistically. But for those that may not know the Guernica Picasso image, it was a work that he translated on his an anti-war piece of a town in Spain that was blown up by by Hitler's war machine as an experiment to show off his weaponry. They found that in the town there were no men of war. The town was filled with only women and children and animals. And so I wanted to kind of reflect back on that image and say that the war that's happening at home in Chicago is causing just as many lives as we speak of in that Iraq war. So every community in America, maybe worldwide, that has a broken Black community can speak on everything that's happening in this image in their own way. That in Chicago, it has its own signature, and so it had, I've moved the images, but I love that we have the only image of a Picasso sculpture, which is in Chicago. So I was able to use that as a part of Picasso, looking at a Picasso and, seeing. So I guess LA or New York or UK would have their own variations of a Guernica that would represent their broken communities.
So would you say that life is more of an inspiration than other artists for you? In terms of that's a very evocative piece of, it's amalgamation of pressure, suffering, what we have all experienced in one way or another as the melanated family around the world. We can all relate to the grays and the browns, the deep grays and the browns. They definitely show the kind of what we have unfortunately all been sort of pushed together to face somehow. And would you say that it's more life that inspires you, or the work of other painters? Like David was talking about his mentor when he was at art college or university. Was it the university, David, that you said? You switch on your
Yes, so I didn't go to art school. I'm actually kind of anti-art school.
okay. That's
So I went to a
interesting.
liberal arts college in New Orleans and was an art major.
Okay, so it was the person that you tutored under that made you, it inspired you. So in the same way, David, Niari, sorry, if I pronounce your name wrong, was it because you mentioned your brothers and your family members? Wow, we just have, is this your piece as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow, wow,
What's up?
wow, wow.
This.
Wow, I actually saw this, and there's a short
Yes, this is.
it was what inspired, well, the whole video that you guys put together, I watched at the gallery, and they showed some of your pieces. And I actually, when I first saw this, I thought it was a child. And then Rose said it's a woman, actually. It's not a child, because it comes across as a small child. But maybe I'm picking up the child within her that has, you know, that is in pain. And I mean, it is, oh man, it's a painful piece to look at, really, to be honest. And it's beautiful and painful all at the same time. But you mentioned your brothers and your family, you know, but is it more, because this is wow. Wow, it's hard for me to, it chokes me up, really, to be honest with you. It makes me very, because I know her. She is me. She's my mother. She's many women that have been in my family, you know. Wow. Who is this? Is this somebody that you know, or where does this come from?
It's interesting. Yes, people, and I never stop people from saying it's a girl. When a lot of people always say that. No one's ever. And so this image, I'd love to talk about it, is a part of just the continued series of trying to translate the message, a different angle of saying the same thing all the time, whether it's sad, joy, happiness, it's always the same art. This image came from another image, referenced image from this woman. She's an older Caribbean woman who was in line for the funeral of Malcolm X. The photographer, the film, the video, the reporter was going through the line for the Malcolm X funeral, asking people what this, I guess this man at the time, they demonized Malcolm X at his funeral, what he meant to Americans and meant to Black people. And so as this woman began to give her interview, she began to cry, speak on how heroic and what Malcolm X meant to her. And so I became transformed by the video, because
I think I remember that, actually. I remember seeing that.
And so she began to cry. And so I did video almost literally. I stopped it and just traced the tear to go down her nose, to stop right before it fell down her face. And so that's the ball of the tear while she was speaking to the reporter before it fell and dropped down. So I wanted to screen capture that moment of, and it's called a season because, you know, as we know, we all go through seasons. So taking it from scripture, from what Solomon spoke of, that everything is a season. And so even through our Black experiences, there will be joy, there will be sadness. But so I wanted to capture that and keep, you know, and remember that moment where here is this man, Malcolm X, the demon, but here is a woman crying for a demon. So it's playing on this contrast of what others may say is a demon, what others may deserve a tear for. And so this picture plays on that moment that we, you know, continue to have, whether it be the death of Malcolm X or the death of Trayvon Martin, or someone close that we know, or the history that we're making in Chicago with the Black on Black violence through weapons. So these are some of the images that draw out from that.
Wow, I mean, it's so powerful, such a powerful piece. I mean, and she plays a very big part in history, so it's very important that you captured her. Who would have thought about her? You immortalized,
Yeah,
you know, and he was no demon. Malcolm X was a great, great, great man, as we know. He was a starseed, you know, what I call a messiah seed, a starseed, and they always target the messiah seeds because we're dealing with a Luciferian construct, and unfortunately for those who carry the torch to shine the light, unfortunately they come before their time. Sometimes it's hard when I think about just that whole image, because obviously she was one of people around the world who were touched and still continue to be touched, and you immortalized her and made us think about all the people who he touched. You know, you brought that awareness to people in just that painting. How big is that painting?
That's also 8x4 as well.
Okay. So where can people, tell me your website again? It's David Niari. Sorry, I'm really bad at pronouncing. I apologize.
Yeah,
sorry.
David Nieri. No problem. No, thank you. DavidNieri.com. It's also, you can go to my social websites. Same name, David Nieri, Instagram, Twitter. I don't have.
I did ask you, I don't know if you answered me. I did ask you, I wanted to know how difficult it is for you as a melanated man. I mean, you guys are great artists. You're not just artists, you're great artists. I mean, you're great artists, and I'm not saying that lightly. I'm kind of a bit gobsmacked. And how I mean, in the art world, is the art world, does it embrace you, is my question. Does it celebrate your greatness? Does it embrace you and pay you the money that you should be paid and get your work everywhere? Does it do that? You know,
I think that it really, I think because of Chicago, it's a different environment where it's really, you can create your own world in the sense, but I do come from, I would say, different privileges that allowed me to I come from what people call the north side of Chicago, which is never really mentioned when you speak of Chicago, because it's pretty much primarily, I guess you would say, the upscale white side of the city, where, so the culture for me to grow up in was made it available to where I was in the best schools that America could give you, allowing me to, I guess this would be a democratic environment, though it's considered very segregated. There is a strong Black community on the north side of Chicago, which I grew up in, which was very empowering in the sense of teaching you about yourself and your history and the challenges that we would have to face. So I entered school with the strength of seeing a lot of things around me. And so the teachers would, you know, from my experience, was that they would open a doorway and it would be the world given to me. So it was upon myself to be an artist, to never limit myself, because it was a door, gateway for me to express myself. And I guess from my experience, I was able to take that confidence and take all those those experiences that were, I guess, inbred in me naturally, and then play it forward to where now I would open myself up to a world that I didn't really realize that there were color differences. Our mayor was black, the sheriff was black, the cops were black, the mailman was black. So in my mind, this was a perfect world until I grew up to see, you know, what was happening on the other side of the city, to where then my friends would bring me out to different realities. And so I guess that always reminded me of kind of my privilege and my responsibility. So to speak on that, I would say that because of the privileges that I had, I'm able to engage in different, open up doorways for myself, see different pathways that I could make available just because of my ability to connect with anyone, because I've grown up in such a diverse environment where I was trained almost to be ready, you know, as a torch in whatever movement that I decided to put myself, you know, toward.
Wow. Wow. I think your work is phenomenal. It's masterful. Both so far, what I've seen is masterful. It really is. I can't sing you guys praises enough. I want to thank you. Thank you for sharing your work. And again, for anybody that say your website for anybody that wants to.
DavidNieri.com.
Okay, so I'm going to come on to Baz now, who's been
Patiently waiting.
Yes, I was. Yes, I am.
We love you, Baz.
Greetings, Brother Baz. It's a privilege and an honor to have you in the space with us all. And I'm really excited to hear about your work as well. I know it's going to be phenomenal. I have seen actually a little bit of it because I watched the video of the gallery, and this is what inspired me to be able to do my bit and get other people to see what you do, you know. So tell the audience about yourself, Baz, and you know.
Well, my origin, I was born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's in Southern Caribbean by St. Lucia and Barbados and Trinidad. That's part of the Caribbean. But I've been living out here for like 20 odd plus years in Hawaii, and then the last two years I've been coming between Maui and Chicago and bringing stuff from the tropics, which I use and make stuff here in Chicago, in Evanston. And then I would use things from nature. So I was one person who, for the last 10 years, I haven't been using any paint or any stains or any dye. So my colors are out of nature. So I consider it pieces of nature, pieces from nature. So it's quite peaceful, it's quite energizing to find that I can pick up something like that looks like a mountain and is without any paint or any stains or any dyes, you see? Has all its color. Can you guys see?
I can't make out what it is. Can you hold it up a little bit?
Hold it higher.
Okay, a little higher. Okay, all right. Okay, I see it now. Yes.
I'll take these pieces and turn them into scenes like these after I make the shapes.
Wow.
That's the heart.
That's beautiful. Hold it up a little bit more, Baz, please.
Perfect.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, it has wonderful texture and the tones, the colors as well. Did you used to use paints? Because you said for the last 10
Yes, I used
years.
to
So
use
you
paints.
used to use paints.
I used to use paint.
Okay, but you don't anymore?
I don't anymore because I actually used to use paint for like 25 years, and then I came to Hawaii and I was still painting. And then I went to visit a friend in Alaska, and I saw the mountain scenes like these pieces, which is all natural, look just like the mountain. It has its own mountainscape. It has its own piece, like look like a mountain. Then it has a water. You can see all the scape right here. So I could build scenes. I find that I can build scenes from visiting Alaska by seeing the mountain from the sky to the sea. So when I came back, I started using banana trees, 5 different types of banana trees, several different types of palm trees, several different types of flowers that all dries and all leave the color. So I always have a say that I refer to people as nature is my painter. I'm just like a filter.
Wow. So
And,
how hard is it to get those materials to do what you do?
it's not
Because you're
hard
not in the
because,
Caribbean now.
yeah, I get it from Hawaii. The material that I have, I bring it from Hawaii.
Okay.
And I have a piece here that's up on the screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Wow.
This piece here was on exhibit by the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago last winter for Black Creativity Month. And this is a piece of, this is a heart, I call it between the hills. And you could always see in every scene from the sky to the sea. That's like my theme. And this is like I always like to stress, without any paint or any stains or any dye. Nature is the painter.
There's no paint on there or varnishes and
Absolutely not. All natural.
wow.
And it stays that way
That's
forever.
beautiful. That is beautiful.
And I also make the shapes. So I make shapes. Now I'm making sailboats, but I will make the shapes of sailboats, hearts, and cut them out. And then I would use glue and stick the pieces together. I'll start with the mountain pieces. This is a
Wow,
guitar.
I love that.
Yeah,
I'm a
this is
guitarist, by the way, so you know, that's one of the things I do. I'm a guitarist, so that I absolutely love that.
yeah, we can jam sometime.
Sorry, are you a musician as well?
Yeah, I play guitar too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that is amazing. How
Yeah.
did you put that piece together?
This here,
Is it one piece or is
yeah,
it
this is a bunch of different pieces on one piece of on one piece of harp ply. So this is banana to the top on the string, and then the fretboard is made from one palm tree, and then the rest is from different types of banana trees. So one part where you get the mountain, the lower part you get the ocean, and then you get like the land coming in.
It looks like the ocean.
Yeah,
And
you see, yeah.
It goes
And-
into the mountain scene. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
And
And
it's all
that's with
natural.
no paints.
Yeah, and there you go again. This is like I say, I'll make the shape, and then I'll use glue and stick the pieces together. So from the mermaid to the softboats to the hearts to pineapples. So I love the piece that I collect from nature, that nature sucks me in and say, hey, you know, here's something that you can use that nobody does, nobody uses it. And then I got into the gallery because I used to paint. Nobody never pay attention to the painting that I used to do. And I never used to try to make a living from it. But after coming back from Alaska with the idea, and I started making like 5 by 7 pieces like these, and then to come to the gallery, and the lady in the gallery says, are you an artist without an appointment? She says, are you an artist? I went like, yes. And then she says to me, you have something to show? And I went like, yeah. And then this is like 10 years ago, and she says to me, show it. So I went to my car and come back, and then this is a gallery called the Maui Hands. So if you go to Hawaii, on Maui, they have 4 galleries in every town, and they all she took my stuff and put it into, so until now all my stuff is in all 4 galleries and plus other galleries on Maui.
Okay, so where would people be able to see your art? What's your website? If you say the name of your website.
It's you can find my stuff at basmawiart.com.
Spell it, please. Baz Maui.
B-A-Z, which is Baz.
Yeah.
And Maui, M-A-U-I, and art, A-R-T, Baz Maui Art.
Okay. So how are you received? Because obviously your work is very much it depicts scenes of nature, and where do you I mean, how are you received as a melanated man, or is that not part of, is that not an issue in your situation? Is that something
in my
that
situation,
doesn't
in my
really
art
affect
form,
you?
it's not an issue because I kind of like, I find myself with pieces from nature that everybody can relate to. Doesn't matter with color, creed, or class. I normally everybody will come and get a piece of art from me because I find it's different, is interested, It's not painted. And I like to say Mother Nature is the painter, so she gives me everything. I'm just like a filter who it takes to provide and put these pieces together so people can see that art is not a form that you have to go to a college or you have to go to a university. When I was brought up, I thought that artists, you have to go to a university or you got to go to college so people can teach you how to do art. And I discovered art all on my own. So I'm going like, wow, that's the most peaceful thing there is.
So are there openings for what you do? I mean, in terms of like the whole art world, does it embrace you? I mean, I would say in the UK, for an artist to get, like, there are galleries like the Tate, Modern. I don't know if you know what these places are. There's the Tate. There's a place that I love called the Serpentine Gallery, which I go to for years. I've gone to the Serpentine Gallery, but I find it quite interesting that they never display the work of Black artists. It's got bookshop. Majority of the books do not depict the works, the great works of melanated artists. So I want to ask you, you know, how does the art world embrace you? Is there, you know, that's my question really. Because I grew up around art. Everybody I knew was an artist. I'm a concepts innovator. That's what I do. And so that involves art. I'm a musician. I found myself doing law for many, many years due to circumstance and people wanting to steal my intellectual property. So my journey took me into the world of law to protect my works. And so I'm asking in terms of, I mean, in the UK, we now realize, we've always known that there's a glass ceiling for us. But, you know, in the US, what's your experience of that as a creative being?
I find I've been received quite well by everyone, so I doesn't really have a problem with what I make and how I sell it and where I sell it. From the time I got established and got into the galleries, and then I started to sell it on my own. I got accepted, so I never really have any problem selling the things that I make by anyone. So I can have something so somebody can buy from $15 up to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So it's catered for everyone, and it doesn't matter who you are and where you're from. And people always approach me like they're seeing something different, they're seeing something unique, and they give me the energy to go to the next piece and to show, well, do you think you're seeing something yet? Watch this. You know, watch what I'm going to do tomorrow. You see this today? Watch what I'm going to do tomorrow. Just because somebody get a piece from me and make me feel, well, you know, you're really onto something, and I'm just making it all myself. It's all in galleries, and people have repeat customers for the last 10 years doing this particular art form, right? So it's quite peaceful, and it's been providing a lot of peace for the people who've been collecting the pieces from me from all over the world. So my pieces are like all over the world, to tell you the truth.
Boz is one of my hardest working artists. He's in practically all the galleries around Evanston here and stuff. And he's not the least bit shy, and he's prolific.
Thanks, Rose.
So how long does it take you to do a piece, Baz?
Well, pieces can take from I would say pieces can take from 45 minutes. Some pieces can take 4 days.
4 days? 4 days?
Some pieces can take 4 days. Some pieces can take from 45 minutes to 4 days. So it depends on the pieces that I'm making.
No wonder you're prolific. I mean, that's a fast turnaround.
Tell us about these sailboats that you're doing now. I love those. I haven't bought one yet.
you see the background up here? I guess you can't see it right here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you would put this on the lake or any water in a pond or in a pool, and it will sail just like a sailboat. It's totally balanced.
So they're miniature sailboats. They're actually sailboats, just a miniature version.
Just a miniature version, yeah. But you put it on the lake or on the ocean, on the water, and it sails once the wind hits it. And there's an island that belongs to St. Vincent and the Grenadines called Bequia, Bequia. There's a tradition that they make these boats right there. So this is a tradition that they brought from there.
Ah, okay.
And something that the locals do as kids.
Weren't your ancestors boat makers also? I remember.
Yeah, my grandfather used to make boats. Yeah, my grandfather used to make boats. My dad used to make guitars. So I come from a line of I would say carpenters, boat builders, and I was one person who that they couldn't get to go to school because I wanted to do what my grandfather was doing and his brothers that were building boats in the yard. And my dad and my uncles, they all was like carpenter building houses. So they had a problem getting me to go to school. When I was like 13, 14, I had was to leave regular school and get out there on my own. And my dad said to me, you know, if you want to stay here, and rule me as a man, you gotta learn to do something. So he went and get a job for me by a smash car replay shop. So it's like a body auto shop that you repair a car that get crashed and you don't put on a new fender or a new bonnet. So you kind of repair them. So by learning how to repair the cars and painting and puttying and priming and learn how to make a car look really nice by painting it, and then that got me into all different kind of colors. And then that's later on I started to paint. I started to paint from taking pieces from trees and putting and spraying on top of a can spray, and then printing it onto a t-shirt and then sell it to the island, sell it to the tourists. And that's why I started out my career as an artist, actually, with can spray and stencils. And then it quickly turned into painting. And then 10 years ago, I went to visit the mountain. And then I saw the mountain, and then I come back and kind of relate with the trees.
And it
then
inspired you. Yeah, my mother actually, because part of my grandmother is a Carib, and she comes from a place called Carib Reserve. And in the Carib Reserve, it's in the Caribbean islands, and
St. Vincent is one of them.
Okay, and they make like basketry. That's their export. They weave things. And my mother used to make similar things. She could do anything, like with she would get like it looks like bamboo, and they soak it. And then they make baskets and things.
It's called copio.
It's what?
It's called copio.
Copio.
Copio is a kind of a grass that it's really strong and you can bust it with your hand. I know exactly what you're talking about. I grew up in it in school, and in St. Vincent, where I come from, there's a village called Sandy Bay. You must look it up. It's a total Carib village. Only Caribs live there. It's been known.
What's it called? Sorry.
Sandy Bay. Sandy Bay. You look it up. Right. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it's a tradition of a Carib chief that the British never capture, and they trick him, and then they took a lot of Caribs from St. Vincent and then took them to Bailey's.
Okay. Yeah, and they make these basket things. They can make ships. They make. I mean, my mother made a huge guitar once. You know, it was incredible. I went over there once. Yes, it was quite reminiscent of what my mother did. Actually, God rest her soul. She's not with us anymore. But I was just looking at your work, and it very much looks like what the Caribs make. So
I'm definitely Carib inspired, because the Carib would, like just what you're talking about, they had in school they have their own village and they had their own craft, and they definitely used to make baskets and skirts and instruments and anything that you can think of. They can make something from what
that's right.
And it's kind of like what I find myself doing by not going to the school, not going through the school system, not going along to do anything from anybody. I would say nature is my teacher. I never had a teacher that actually had to say, the teacher teach me something.
Wow, that's
so I'm
amazing.
Totally nature driven.
Thank you for sharing. So how will people find you if they want to see what you do, if they want to buy one of your pieces? Or
yeah, they have to go to like I said, Baz, which is BAZ, is stand for Blessed Almighty Zion. And then Maui is MAUI, which is the island in Hawaii, and then ART, which is Baz Maui Art.
Okay, thank you so much.
On Instagram or Facebook. Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. It reminds me of my mother, really, really big time.
Yeah, honestly, look up St. Vincent and the Grenadines and that village called Sandy Bay. You will find a whole Carib history.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so, Alpha, we're going to come back to you now. Did you get your pieces? Because where is Soul?
She's
Where
gone.
is? Okay.
Sholo apologized. She had to leave. But maybe I'm hoping that Alpha will be able to pull up her the artwork that she did in the driveway of the Evanston Art Center. It was a beautiful Black Lives Matter thing that she did.
Okay.
Oh,
She's
there's,
right here.
yeah,
Okay.
that's her.
There she is.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful picture. It's a beautiful black and white. I love black and white images as well. Wow.
That's her
So,
Black Lives Matter.
Oh, and this is, oh,
So I put a
oh,
slideshow
wow. That
together.
was the
So
picture that I saw earlier.
I'll come back to
Wow.
it, but this is a slideshow I put together of my social justice pieces. And so they're right now on a video feed, and then I'll go back and frame for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't. Power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental. And I missed the last word. Whoa, these are powerful pieces as well.
So so what I was showing you, because I had to go back and put this
Are these
presentation
doors?
together. Those are recycle and repurposed doors, and they are from the Echoes of Our Journey. Like David was talking earlier about the Great Migration. So it was the centennial of the Great Black Migration. And here at our gallery, Gallery Gashard, a group of artists repurposed the original doors from the building that we opened here in 2014. This building is on sacred ground here in Bronzeville. Bronzeville was African-American area where African Americans came through the migration, and they were red lighted in just this area here, and then also on the west side. And so the building that I live in as an artist, it was originally owned by the Jones brothers, and they were African American entrepreneurs, and they were precursor to the state lottery. They ran the policy here. And the second and third floor were always businesses or single occupancy apartments. On the ground level, they owned the Ben Franklin hardware store, which is the largest African-American hardware store in the nation. A little bit about this area was the Black metropolis. They had a lot of money that because we were, David, correct me, but because I didn't grow up here in Chicago. I grew up out west, and I was part of that migration chain. So I really had to explore the history of Bronzeville since I'm new to the community and understand what that looked like in the context of living African American and migrating and growing up and being here in the city, and the way the city is kind of broken down to the different biracial areas. Like the other David was talking about, he went north. I kind of live all over the city and pollinate art all over the city of Chicago and the greater Chicago area. But I found out this area was a Black metropolis, and it had its heyday, and it's a revival that's happening here in the community. I live at the Bronzeville Artist Loft, which is 16 lofts that are for artists. We have curators, musicians, theater artists, video artists, visual artists that participate in the Bronzeville Art District. So that's where I am, and that's what this exhibit is about. This particular door here in the middle is called the Promenade because we are on sacred ground, and sacred ground is when a lot of the musicians and the poets, and artists that perform downtown and the city couldn't live there. So at night they would come back to Bronzeville, and then they would be at the Palm Tavern, which is a lot next door to our building, and they would perform. So these images here in this first pane were my collage on glass pieces.
Wow, these are painted on glass?
They are collage on glass, and so it's a mixed media on. And then this door in the back with the phase, that was, you know, Overton. Anthony Overton was a businessman that invested in Chicago. A school's named after him, where I have a project there. And also a, you know, he has a hygienic building that he, that's historic. It's on a historic landmark that I did a lot of work around him. This piece is part of that migration series, and Overton is featured in here. He did a lot of work with actual, you know, within our own community policies, insurance policies, and people invested into them, and banks. So they were part, you know, this is a collage on wood, and it was part of the Great Migration series. I have more work on that, but I just, you know, really pulled up these images just to give a sampling of work. And I wanted to focus on the art and social justice work that I was doing. But because David talked about his migration pieces, I couldn't let it go. So
I love it, actually. I'd love to see the images on the glass closer, if that was possible. I don't know.
Let me just go back to that. I don't know if I could do
we've seen
that
it
or
from
not.
a distance, and it's powerful. It does depict, I could see like the jazz musicians. And I don't know much about Bronzeville. Is it Brunswick or what?
Bronzeville.
Bronzeville. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
so here's a detail of that installation. And I showed you the installation so that you could see that the other artists participated in as well, and how they each repurposed the doors. And again, a lot of social issues were going on during the time of our installation. Some artists chose to address, like the Black Lives Matter piece there. He came from St. Louis, and he has another interpretation of what happened with the Black Lives Matter movement and migration into the city of Chicago. Again, someone did the policy. One door, Marlene Campbell, which is a gallery owner, she focused on the Porter and some of the historical timelines that happened because her family lived here in Chicago. And then I did on the left there, you're right, I did this on Anthony Overton and did a timeline of, there was two migrations. There was the migration coming, and then there was the migration going back, you know, of people leaving and going back because they just couldn't, like, weather the difference here in Chicago. And then you had the 40s where there was the migration of people leaving the South because they didn't, you know, because there was, we know what history was about during that time, and migrating back up here. So this talked about, is a collage on wood, mixed media. And so there's a lot of kind of detail in that. I didn't include it with this slide, but I just wanted to show you the actual installation that we did here at the gallery, and what the gallery that represents me here in Bronzeville kind of looks like.
Okay, so is this still available for people to see or not, Alpha?
It is no, that's an old exhibit. I do have that on my blog, and I did send my blog out, you know, so if people want to read about the, because I have a blog on my art projects. And so I do talk and give a synopsis of what, you know, the exhibits are about and what we're doing here. When I'm invited into an exhibition, I will do that and put it on my blog. So we're going to go past.
What is your website, Alpha? What's your website for people?
My blog,
that,
it's Alpha Bruton Projects. I have it over there on the chat.
Okay,
I edited it already.
Okay, so it's Alpha
Bruton.
Yeah, and how are you spelling that?
Bruton. Here's
Okay.
my, I guess I pulled it up. I don't know if you can see it or not, but.
It's just for people that are watching that want to check it out while they watch
It's there.
it.
It's there.
Did it come
The
up?
addresses. Yes, it did. Mhm.
Okay, so here's my blog post. This is an exhibit that I'm currently in. I'm gonna go kind of real slow on the screen share. This just opened last Friday, the 17th. This art district here has to go through a virtual platform to do our trolley tour since we are COVID-19 and only in phase 4 of reopening to the public. But this current exhibit, Color Me In, it is on display now. And these are the new social justice works I did. And this was addressing the existence of women, you know, in the infallible universe. And it was 9 women that addressed what that means to them in this time. So I kind of wrote in a synopsis of the my pieces. This
Okay.
piece here is observability for the new world.
Can you show us these pieces, these smaller thumbnails? Can we see them a bit closer?
Okay. So you're not seeing the website, so I'll get out of that and go back to the photograph.
We're just seeing kind of a storyboard.
Yeah, we'll go back to the storyboard. This piece right here is called Living in America, Decisive Moment.
Wow. This piece here with the, yeah, okay. This piece here is called Living in America, Decisive Moment, and it's a child with a gun.
Exactly. And then
Wow.
I kind of like on my art and social justice pieces, I do put a little commentary through there, you know, kind of speaking to, you know, our rights, justice for all. You know, I put little things that are within that. But when people kind of viewed this piece, and it was done for our exhibit here, Individualism, and they were just like you. Why did you paint a child holding a gun? Is it suicide? They went through all these dilemmas of what the artist was thinking and what I was experiencing and why would I do that? Well, the state we're in, our children can't even play with water guns, you know, in a park, or they'll be, you know, killed. And I remember my brothers and myself growing up in the 50s and 60s where we played with cap guns. That was just something we did. Cowboys, you know, and Indians. That's something that we were given. And it wasn't where the police officers at the time would shoot us, you know, for playing with that. So I kind of did that. And, you know, this was done after a famous portrait artist, and he did a lot of things for, you know, for media. He had taken this little boy in Pittsburgh, and it was a black and white image of him standing by the tree. And so I took it and brought it up to this time and added, you know, the red, the flag, and, you know, that is an actual flag, you know, fabric, and it's a mixed media, where I started the images of the flag so that they would be the 3D on it, and then painted the other.
Okay.
You know, so it gives people that, you know, when they really think about it and look and question, and does it sell? These works really, I don't say they sell, because people don't want to have this confrontation in their home, you know, like they want to get up every day and this is what they're confronted with. So I'm fine with that, because I can put these.
So it might be a bit disturbing for people, but it's a reality. It's a reality that people need to look at and see. In fact, there was a case, I think it was last week in the UK, where a 12-year-old was found with, well, he was playing with a gun, a toy gun, and apparently whole armored police turned up for him, you know. So you're absolutely right, you know.
And this is transcontinental. This is transcontinental. This is things that are going on here in the States. And like you said, they're going on in the UK. And they look at our young men, they look at our children as they're not children. They look at us at them as they're adults, you know, and tried as adults, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, So I had to speak to that with this piece.
Wow, it's powerful. It's a very, very, very brilliantly executed piece as well.
Thank you.
Wow.
And this piece, Get Your Back Up Off the Wall, it was titled, you know, and it just says that for itself. I made sure that it was a multicultural theme. In my work, you'll see children, you know, that are like, again, under the age of 5 in social justice. And so at one time I was painting a lot of social justice work in front of brick walls. And the brick walls, to me, they symbolize either you're keeping people out or you're keeping people in. You know, so here it was like, get your back up off the wall. And if you know Kool and the Gang, you know the rest of the song.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that.
Get
kind
down
of
on it, I think it is, isn't it? That tune,
Yeah.
Get Down on it. Yeah.
You
He
know,
does
so
it
that
with
was
Kool
kind of
and
like,
the Gang.
and that sold, it sold, you know, an exhibit that was about diversity. And so that really kind of left the, really fast. This piece, it is about police games children play.
So say that again, sorry.
Police games children play.
Oh wow, that's
And I
disturbing.
did this in the 90s when Rodney
Wow.
King and the riots were happening during that time. And I was with a group of artists called the Visual Arts Development Project, and we all did our exhibits together. And so we were all challenged to get work done. And I thought I put this one in a group exhibition during that time. And so even though this was done like in the early 90s, you know, with my theme and working again with the brick wall. But here, you know, children, the white on their hands is the police lights from the car. You know, kids could play with Uzis during that time, the little toy guns they sold, Robocops, you know, and these were like little, and then I put them in the position of the older kids, which are still under 5, protecting the preschool kids as they stand there, you know. And so this was a piece that it sold from a gallery. And I don't kind of like equate a sale as, but it spoke to a collector, you know, that has it in their collection. So I was glad to see it move. But, you know, I only do one of a kind work. I never do reproductions of anything.
Wow, this is a very disturbing piece, isn't it? It's very disturbing, but this is the reality for children of color all around the world, you know. This is our experience, immortalized.
And these are just a couple of images that I put in on my Pan-African idea work that I do. Again, it's a lot of collage and you know, work that's on canvas and mixed media and paint. But this is at the top is when the World Trade Center. And then this is speaking to our migration as well. When we had the sharecroppers that were, again, another form of slavery in the South. And you had the tobacco and the cotton fields, you know, that they plowed. And then I used the tobacco. These are like the major crops and crops that with the World Trade Center, how they built all of that wealth upon the backs of these of our sharecroppers, and of course, you know, the slaves that built America. You know, so that's, you know, kind
is that
like
all tobacco here? Is this tobacco?
That is tobacco that's spread on there. And I got a chance to do a residency in Valdosta, Georgia, and there's a lot of plantations in that. They call it a Fortune 500 area, where you can't really get into that area where there's only one little maybe airport, but there's no major airport except for Atlanta or Jacksonville, Florida. But that whole tri-area is where the wealth, a lot of wealth is in the country, right in that tri-area. They have no bus services. They have Valdosta State. They have a military base, Air Force base that's there. And I was able to venture out because my son is in the Air Force. He was stationed there. So I was able to go and stay and venture out, and first time seeing plantations, seeing the soil, seeing the, the cotton fields, I'm not privileged to that being North and being on the West Coast. Not that it's a privilege, but it's something that happens when you step on the soil and it's the eeriness of the lives that came before, because and the soil is so grainy and so rich. It's not like dirt. It's this fine sand that of years and years of cultivation has happened in those cotton fields. And to see the tobacco fields, I didn't go to the Carolinas to see the Indinka or the rice fields or where they, had made the dyes. But this part I went to, and I was collecting the cotton bulbs, and the seeds so that I could use them in my art. And so this goes to the World Trade Center and the bombing of the World Trade Center. And with a Pan-African idea and my awareness about self came in the 70s when I first entered college. And I did follow the path of degrees and education and art centers and, that. I loved school and the education and studying under other artists and people that could teach me. And like the Black Panther Party in Sacramento, and I grew up in the central San Joaquin Valley, and there you had the other Black Panthers that were part of the movement. And this brother here, Akisanye, is an artist and someone that I knew that came up through the movement, and not use the Panther, and I do have images of the Panthers that everyone has noted, the Angela Davis. In the 70s, I was in high school when Angela Davis was in jail, and a farmer from Fresno, California, my hometown, put his ranch up for her bail. But I was passing out petitions to get her out of jail. And so, I was on the ground, the boots on the ground, and cadre training in my teens that was shaping the way I think about social justice, as a teenager, like 16 years old and stuff. And so those, knowing that part of the Panther movement is why I do the kind of work and use the images. I even went over in the middle here, there's the Panther we're talking about, Bobby Seals. I went over to Ramstein, Germany, and the Panther Party. I walked into an exhibition there in Mischenbach, and they had the Black Panthers that were part of the Rhine, that were part of the movement, because you have to understand that the West German students were the ones that helped our civil rights. They were as much part of this,
Yeah, I seen a lot of documentaries which were in German, and there was, in Europe, there was a big, there was a lot of interest from that side of the world, but not in the UK. UK is extremely repressive. Before you shut it down, I wanted to ask you, can you go back to it? Sorry?
This here? Yeah, this one?
Yeah. Can you go back to it? Because it's got some writing, and I just wanted to, because you say beware of the, what is it? Panther.
The Panther.
Ah, okay. And it says the white in the
The Crisis, a record of the darker races. And this is the first publication that the NAACP did. This is the volume 1, the cover, and it's a record of the darker races. And I follow, the philosophy of W.D. Du Bois. He's a socialist and a communist. You know what I mean? When people look sometimes at the NAACP versus, other movements in, the Garfield, the Garfield movement and other movements, they're not looking at what the soul of the beginning of the NAACP was, and how the thought was of the leaders that started it. And they don't, not that they don't, but I had to understand that W. Du Bois studied in Berlin. When he couldn't get into the universities here in the States, he was afforded to be at the university there in Berlin. And he introduced Pan-Africanism on the world stage in his position in Expo in France. So, I mean, I was just like, pulling pieces of history in this one narratives in this one piece.
Okay.
So,
Can you tell me what this says here? It says wins, he loses, and I couldn't read. Sorry.
when he loses, he wins. When he loses, he wins.
Oh, it's repeated.
Yeah. So like I said, I use those subjective words so that, in a white world, there was, the new black Negro. There's other terms that I use that I kind of supplanted in the piece, so that when you're studying it or you're looking at it, you're just not walking by like it's okay, it's another piece. It makes you have to think about it and ask the question. And a lot of collectors don't really want you to talk about the narrative of the piece, but I think it's always important, again, to know the narrative of the piece and what the symbols are that you place in your work.
Absolutely. It's quite interesting that Berlin, there was an actual quite a movement of people there that were supportive of the plight, and of course you have people like in France, there was Dave Baldwin, the writer, and we had people like Josephine Baker that was in France. I mean, there was much more, I think, how can I say, there was much more at that particular time in those places in Europe. There was much more support for us. In the UK, obviously it was zero. The UK is absolutely doesn't embrace anything of color. Unfortunately, it is probably the most backward place as far as, I mean, even music, the music that we have here is, you'd never get anything like you have in the States and the UK. Obviously you have talented people, but there is great repression. Yeah, we had Paul Robeson, but we in the UK, we always look to America, for our heroes. People are surprised that I'm as vocal as I am. I'm pretty much out there as far as being an outspoken about the issues pertaining to our people, but generally speaking, there is definitely repression in the UK. And did any of you see the badge? There's a badge. You guys shouldn't see it if you haven't seen it. It's basically it's the highest medal of honor that you can get in the UK, and this badge depicts a white angel crushing the head of a black man, and it is something that is awarded to any dignitary, in any sphere. It's the highest level of award that you can get. You need to look at this. All of you need to look at this.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I haven't. In it again, the badge.
Yeah, I did I might be able to pull it up, but I did a quick talk about it. I made a video about it, but basically it's a white angel, and it's the black man lying on the ground, crushing the head. This angel is crushing the head of a black man, or the neck. It could be the neck or the head, but in that region. And for centuries, they've been handing this out to even black dignitaries, because apparently in Jamaica and places like Jamaica now, they're now suddenly saying, oh my God, we didn't know what it meant. I don't know. I need to, while you're showing that picture, I'll find it for you, because you need to see it, and it's been flagged up in all this wake of all this Black Lives Matter, even though we know that Black Lives Matter is funded by Soros and is actually not even a black organization really, but it still has given us as a collective, the voice to actually start speaking about the things that we need to speak about. So I will pull up that. So show me the picture. You just had something on the
Oh, you want?
screen, Alpha.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish this
Sorry.
slide.
Sorry.
Oh, this is the
Yeah,
revolution. You can't
yeah.
jail the revolution is another collage piece.
Right.
We all,
So tell us about this.
Well, here in the middle, you can't jail the revolution. You can put people in jail. You know how this piece was done precursor
right.
to the protest and the that we just had around George Floyd. But this piece was done a few years ago, and it's based on the 1969 7 riots that were in Detroit when they were putting the dogs and the fire hoses on protesters and the children that were in the protests. And it just showed the savagery of using the dogs and that was right in the middle. So you can't jail the revolution because the revolution is going to happen, when the people are tired and they've just had enough. And this image is an image here that I repeat with a father and son, showing him history. I have this image that repeats itself underneath the Salem Bridge, and a lot of documentaries show African Americans.
Sorry, I have a problem with the sound here. Apologies. I'm trying to find that image, and let me just mute myself. Sorry, I'm sorry, Alpha. I was just trying to pull up the badge to show you as well while you're talking. And another video open, so apologies while you were talking there. So if you can continue.
So that's what this piece is basically about. You can't jail the revolution. And myself and another artist, and I'm tying this back in now into the curatorial practice of the work that I'm doing in art and social justice, is that an artist, Carol Henry Alexander, she lives in Clinton, Maryland. We did a huge project where we went across the United States at different places, and we did creative currency, words to live by, where we took political yard signs and gleaned them and cleaned them and repurposed them with message of civility on them, and had them workshops where we brought people together to talk about what this looks like, and give narrative to what this looked like as they were creating and repurposing and creating images on their yard signs. So this is one of the pieces that was from that type of work. And I visited the 99% camps when there was this horizontal movement about the 99 versus the 1%. And they were these camps that were going on like 10 years ago. So I kind of did some on one of my blogs on creative currency. It shows where I videotaped and talked to people. And I have a blog talk radio where I have creative conversations where I call up the artist and we talk about issues, or I give them a platform to rant, to talk about current affairs, to talk about themselves and the work that they are and the projects that they're doing. So with those kind of platforms, I always think as artists, I think it's our social responsibility to do these types of projects and not look at, well, I'm making this work for the bottom line. The work that I do is to, I kind of like curate people in the sense of using my background in art administration, art education, my learned experience at the college. I was at the California Arts Council, as a program manager. I was at the Metropolitan Arts Commission as a program manager with arts education and outreach into communities, giving funding to artists to do programming within the city and county of Sacramento. So coming to Chicago, of course, I worked as an art consultant, but I also got my master's of art administration at the School of the Art Institute. So with that background, I feel like I have income streams and ways to support myself as an artist, and I don't look at the sale of art to underwrite for my lifestyle and what I do. So I can get out there and do these types of social justice projects that don't really, I'm investing money into them and not looking at what the money that I'm going to get out of them. So So that's kind of like how I staged this project with Carol Henry, going across the country and making we ended our exhibit at Crystal City, Virginia, which is a political area. She lives near DC, and where we work with Artomatic, and they took over a 10-story corporate building and had all of these artists that just popped up for a couple of weeks, and actually a couple months, and then the building was demolished. But it was one of these huge, places where artists could repurpose and recreate and revision and do this huge pop-up. And we did a workshop there where we did creative currency, and we did our political talks, and we engaged people in our project. So these are the kind of things that I do with my social justice work. And we'll move on. So can you see?
How are you received? How are you received, Alpha, as a melanated woman that has extremely evocative, very powerful pieces, statement pieces that are, in your face, really? And how are you received in the art world? Are you celebrated? Are you, do you find it difficult to exhibit what you do? Or
no, I think because I carve my own niche.
Right.
My curatorial practice is the Phantom Gallery in Chicago, and I've been doing that for 17 years. I ran a visual art development project before, as I was doing art administration for the state agency and the city agency. I still ran my own art practice, and saying that, artists trusted me to be their chief curator because I'm an artist first and not just an administrator trying to do these programming. And I do work in non-traditional settings. For example, this piece I'm going to show you here. Where is it? It's about this piece, this last and final piece on this slide is about, like, I went up into somebody's land, and I did a huge land trust project. And with that project, we made installations. So I do a lot of work in the environment as well. And it's a certain artist that can do that kind of work and stage that kind of work. And I'm perceived in the audience that enjoys that kind of work and understands that kind of work and know that I'm not working in a traditional way.
Mm.
You know
Are
what I
you
mean?
able
And
to open it up?
yes, I hear it is. This is a piece that's part of a ceremonial circle. And it was in the outdoor space, and you'll see it on my blog if you investigate and look through blog projects. And I actually did this at Eastern Illinois University as a resident artist. I went in and created an indoor ceremonial installation, recreating sound, smell, the experience of being in an outdoor space. And what I did out in Auburn, California, up in the foothills, I did a call for artists, and whoever heard the drum beating came. They paid for their own airfare. They drove in, they were there, and they pitched their tents, they pitched their hammocks, and I said that we were going to do this workshop and retreat and stage it as a way to create these land trusts, and take the altar experience back into the natural environment, instead of having the altars inside that a lot of people that are altar makers are practice making altars. So this is one project where it grew. I used the pottery of the artists that owned the land, found objects, and we created these like a fire pit. And if you do in Weebies, where you're doing like the sweat huts from the Native American, one of our facilitators, Yaya, she is she does Aztecan dance, and her tribe does a lot of the sweat huts. So that kind of work, you know, you have to have an audience, a mainstream kind of audience that will follow you into whatever you're going to do. Because at the end of the day, we're exploring our art practice. So I just kind of wanted to share that slide with you. And to end my presentation, how I'm involved with the Evanston Arts Center, because I do have my own curatorial practice, which again is the Phantom Gallery Chicago Network. I put in an application and a call for artists to participate. And I don't know if you could see my website now. Is it on the screen or it didn't come on the screen? Okay, so, okay. Anyway, I'll just wrap it up.
Thank you.
One of the things that we're doing is, thank you. So how I'm involved with Soulworks and how I came to Evanston is through Fran. Joy invited me, she's part of the curatorial committee at Evanston, and she invited me to submit an application to be a curatorial fellow. And I felt like I got a fellowship like California Arts Council, Art Administration, like so many years ago, right? What do I need a fellowship for? So what I thought about it was that I am at the, I won't even call it ageism, but I'm at the stage in my career that I have to take the baton and pass it. Like someone passed the baton to me, they passed the needle to me, they passed the paintbrush to me. You know what I mean? So I just felt like this project at Evanston Arts Center is, our vision is an intergenerational curatorial practice that seeks the model for emerging and established curators to innovate in curating exclusive experiences. So I asked Adele Knott, and she is a new curator of more conversation and facilitation more than a hands-on artist, to participate in this fellowship with me. And we have a call for diverse artists, i.e. women, people of color, LGBTQIA, and disabled artists, to provide works that reflect each of our themes. And our themes that we're going to focus on are examining the state of our environment through the themes of racism, spirituality, documentation, and art and wellness. And we're going to stage several public programming. And because we're in the age of Zoom and we're in the age of COVID-19, we had to be creative about how we're going to structure these public programs. And I'm doing a series of creative conversations on Blog Talk Radio as my platform. And it's shared and pollinated back onto the Evanston Arts Center website under the Curatorial Fellowship, and also my blog pages. And so we'll be doing those kinds of talks and during this year-long fellowship or residency at the Art Center. Adira will be in charge of the art talks, and she's looking at pairing younger, emerging, career artists as I'm doing.
Are you all involved in this? So is it just you? Are you involved in this, David and David as well?
They'll be involved because I'm inviting them to participate.
Oh, that's
because
what I mean.
We have to mirror. Right now,
absolutely.
Right now, I'm interviewing artists from Soulworks on Creative Conversation and talking to them about their work. So their work is being documented and shown in conversation, which is linked to the Evanston. And so I have like Boz, I interviewed Boz recently. William, I have an interview coming up with Boz. I interviewed William. I interviewed Rose, and then also Fran. So that starts our series with the work of the artists that are there in the Evanston community. And I'm bridging them with the artists here in Bronzeville that I represent. And not only in Bronzeville, I brought in 4 fantastic artists that have been instrumental in my own curatorial practice. Sholo McDaniels, she is an artist that has a museum practice in Sacramento, California. She will be part of the residency and exhibiting Talbot, Germany. She's Mather, California, and she is a art educator, background in anthropology, and is a visual, she teaches drawing and painting at the university. Carol Henry Alexander, we started showing like in '92 when she was at the San Francisco African American Historical and Cultural Center at Fort Mason. She was a curator there in the early 90s, and she's her.
So these are people that, sorry, I'm trying to understand.
Exactly.
These are people that are collaborating with you at this, with these.
Right.
These
These are people that I've invited to be the first ones on the intergenerational platform that we did a call for artists, and these are the ones that I'm featuring that have been, and I brought them in because they've been instrumental in my, they've been with me the last 20 years or 27 years of evolving, and we have all evolved in our own art practices. And
Okay.
we have Alabama, Daphne, and her background is, of course, a museum and gallery practice. So those four are the women that I will be featured and exhibiting in Evanston next summer. And then
Okay.
Daryl will be pulling together about 8 artists as well, you know, over the span of the year to have a series of art talks.
Okay.
And finally, one of the workshops that we'll be doing is the ceremonial teas in the context of African-American social life. And that's by Larissa A.K. Johnson, and she's a curator, has a curatorial practice here in Chicago.
And
Okay.
you're going to interview more of the soul work artists too.
Yeah.
You just haven't gotten to them all.
Yeah, the list is Boz is next Tuesday, and then the curatorial the creative conversations are on Tuesday, 11 a.m. and they're on Blog Talk Radio / Phantom Gallery Chicago, and I'll send that website to you as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of us will be given an invitation to have that conversation. David Anthony, you will be given the link, and I'm waiting for you to respond so I can schedule you in. And so forth. I'm trying to do 4 interviews a month of various artists and linking them to our fellowship.
Okay, I want to ask you, Alpha, how, and everybody really, because obviously we're in critical times. We're in critical times now with this whole COVID situation, which is a pandemic. It's manufactured. We all know that it's manufactured. And, you know, I'm sure you all know by now that they're trying to vaccinate the melanated people first. We are the first on, and in historically, we've always been the first people to be experimented upon. And I wanted to get, you know, how can art work in situations like this? We have a situation where, you know, apparently Trump is about to bring in the military to deliver the vaccines. In the UK, they're saying that by Christmas, they want everybody to be vaccinated, starting with the melanated people. You know, I'm a sovereign being. I don't get involved in their bullshit. I'm sorry to use that language, but I just have to be real with you. I don't do what they're doing. It's not my bag. You know what I mean? However, they're pushing their paradigm because we have humanity. The 99% of humanity is awakening. This whole COVID situation brought people inwards, you know, they brought them spiritually to look within themselves and, you know, look at what's going on the micro and the macro level. And we can see that we're in critical times. And so my question is, how can artists, you know, because all of your work is demonstrative in raising the awareness on both levels, on the levels of, okay, this is what's happening, being able to depict the monstrosities in beautiful ways, you know, but then you also have the ability to create, to design the future that we all really want to experience and see, you know, because we have the ability to change the timeline and to control the narrative. And so my question is, how can art play a part in this critical time of them wanting to vaccinate us and they wanting to, you know, how does art work? How can we bring art into the conversation in that way? What say you? I'm going to bring that to you first, Alpha, then I'm going to ask to David and Baz about it, and Rose, of course. Just in a word, not too long, because we are coming to the end of the show now. And so, Alpha, what do you say about that in terms of the times we're living in right now? It's the best of times and the worst of times all at the same time, kind of thing.
I think we do still have choice, but also I think that we need to partner with local artists and organizations on the design and implementation of interventions, and not, you know, like sticks in the bundles, they can't break, you know what I mean? And if we start doing that kind of work and, you know, being, you know, we're the sign makers, we're the ones that are out there, we're the ones that are doing the installations, we're the one that, you know, people are really listening to, that we stir, and we do a lot of experimentalism. And I think that that's the best thing that we can do, support local grassroots efforts of what's going on within our community.
Thank you, Alpha. It's true, I agree with you. David, Anthony, what say you? I mean, your work historically, I mean, you've depicted the Panthers and, you know, the migration period, and here we are living in one of the most, probably one of the worst periods in history, particularly for us as melanated people, because now we're seeing the impact. And I'm going to show you this badge as well, because I think it will do something to you as artists to actually see this. When I saw it, it just like, it was the answer to so many questions I had. I didn't understand, like, my work is different, it's conceptual. I created a multimedia platform that became world famous. You know my work as Dancing with Stars, you know, that's a really big show that happens to be mine. And there's a lot of shows, there's a whole catalog. I created a multimedia platform which was stolen and translated to all these different works of art. And then I found myself as a melanated person hemmed in, obstructed, because they didn't want it to be known that it was my work. And so then I had a battle to be seen, to become visible. And in that journey, I met people like Sophia Stewart, who created the Matrix movie and Terminator, another Black woman. And this whole army of people came forward. And then now we have all these things that are coming to the surface. And I just wanted to find out what you feel about where we are right now, and art partnering with music. And I mean, how can art become part of the conversation?
For me, it's twofold. There are some of us that are going to be documentarians. And envisioners, either documentarians of what is happening right now or envisioners of a possible future.
Can you come closer to your mic, David?
Sorry. And, you know, some of us will work in that capacity, and others of us will do what I've always felt is my charge. Like my frontline days were in my 20s, and I remember them. And I was on every protest line. And these days, my energy is directed at being the respite and the joy. Because
sorry, say that again.
The respite and the joy.
Oh, right.
For those of us that are fighting the fight in a much more direct capacity, to create spaces, images, stories, conversations, environments where our joy and mental health can be nurtured. Right? Everybody can't be in the thick and heart of the fight. Somebody has to be creating spaces for folks to come to and find joy and pleasure, right? You know, like Baz's work immediately makes me think of like when I want to get the hell away from all of the insanity. Like Find a banana leaf and make it a mountain.
Where they
This
go,
is
my man?
joy. Like there is the simplicity and beauty of that is as important. Having that aspect of in one's life and being like a healthy, whole human being. And I think artists, you know, some of us are going to play one role and some of us are going to play another role in that. And they're both important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, you know, everybody's role is necessary at this time, and it is a critical time. You know, I think some people probably don't even realize how critical a time it is. So, David, what do you say?
I think as an artist, for me particularly, we've come to a state artistically where it's as, you know, as a child, I dreamed of this. I was a kid that would get the newspaper every weekend and I would look at a video camera at the local store, at Kmart, it's called here, I don't know what it's called. And it was like, you know, $2,500 when I was a kid. And I dreamed of a world where I would, you know, own camera. But as we know now, you can have a camera. You know, I wanted to make movies. I wanted to make images bigger than myself. And I felt that that could be done through animation and things that we have available that are easy, accessible for us now. So I think, you know, as an artist, I'm really looking to use every platform that we have, technology, to kind of broadcast these images and these ideas and these concepts that we're creating right now, because I'm being watchful of where we are. And as an artist, I'm like, you know, like maybe metaphorically, if I was like, you know, in a Star Trek movie, when things get really to the critical point, they say, you know, blast them with everything we got. So I think as artists, Black artists in this time, we're given every missile, every kind of plasma to shoot. So I've been using that video, camera, paintbrush, animation, graphics to kind of begin that. So I'm music, especially. I think that being, you know, like you spoke of, being, I think, one of the most instrumental means of getting something out. But
yeah,
the internet, we can use the music and visuals. So we have a very compounding effect as artists with both music and the visual to use as a
yeah. I think I agree with you. I think it's just an important time. It's a really important time. We're shifting paradigms. We're transitioning from one, you know, archaic thought process, you know, lifestyle into what we want to experience and what we want to leave behind as a legacy. And so art definitely plays a big role in that. And Baz, what say you? Thank you, David. What say you on that note?
This note, I would like to give appreciation to both David, the one before, who talk about me and what I'm doing, because part of what I'm doing is inspired by nature. So I hope I like how I inspire him by what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and how I'm coming about it. So I hope to inspire lots more other people in the same way. And so the other David as well talk about music. I also like I find music is art and I find music is peace, no different to the art form that I'm doing. So I would say playing my guitar is like my most taken art form, but I don't try to make a living from it. I just try to, when I get away from what I'm doing, that's what I get onto. And before I get to what I'm doing, making art, I'll get to my guitar and play something different, play something original, because I do not play anybody's song. Bob Marley inspired me, and he says to me, don't play my music, go play your own music and be yourself and make yourself. So that's kind of like my inspiration right there. I always like play and listen to myself. I come like I'm my favorite fan. I love what I do. I enjoy what I do. And people like David, when he says, "Oh, look at what Baz done," when somebody buys something from me during the years, and they said to me, that is so great, that is so cool, that inspire me. So I hope to take that in, that people take that inspiration and try to grasp at it. That's what I hope for. My greatest wish is for people to pay attention to nature like I do. I was born and raised in it. And after a certain amount of while, I realized, well, oh wow, this is who I am, this is what I meant to do, this is what I'm doing, and that's what I'm doing right now. And it's something that I never learned anyway, never learned from anybody. I just pick it up as I go along. And I find it's been great, and it's a great ride. It's a great joy. And that's what I want to share with everyone.
Wow, thank you. That's powerful. That's cool. Thank you so much, Baz. I really appreciate that. And Rose, now coming to you, what say you? You know, we kind of met because of this whole crazy scene, really. I mean, had it not
Yes.
been for the craziness that's going on, I don't know if we would have probably crossed paths in the way that we have.
We crossed paths spiritually, because I've been a longtime fan of Alfred Weber, and then I met you when you were running the forum that you did about a month or so ago with all the political people from the UK, and you invited me to speak there. For me, essentially, you're looking at someone who's essentially found out what they're here for. I am a light worker. I do a lot of spiritual work, just as a bottom foundation, and that's how I became a fan of Weber and of you also. As an emerging person that wants to run a gallery, I'm also very militant. I'm also an anti-racist, and I'm a reparationist, and a number of other things. And I'm probably very militant compared to some of you here. And I love my art, but I also expect the art to change the dialogue now. And I'm looking to artists who are willing to come forward and be aggressive and show our people in a different light to change this paradigm. And as much as it's going to be very difficult, and there are very many people in resistance against us, it's the road that I know that I'm here in this lifetime to serve on. So it makes it's a little difficult. It's a little difficult. But it's the one that gives me the inner power and the inner strength to move forward with the concepts I want to bring forward in my gallery and in the type of artists that I want to bring to the world. I basically want our world to change. I want us to be accepted. I want the galleries to open to us worldwide. I don't want us to be constrained only to the type of, the type of sort of, I sort of call it like, I want the white world to see other levels of our work and to understand other levels of the Black soul in this world, and not just in the US, but all over the world. So I'm willing to do whatever I have to do. And if it means going out and marching and turning, burning the institutions down, I'm up for it. As old as I am, I'm probably one of the oldest folks here, but that's who I am. That's who I am right now.
I'm right there with you, Rose. I tell you that much. I'm right there with you on that one. That was powerful, and it's the truth.
Thank you.
It's the truth. The truth is the truth. That's
Absolutely.
just so we've done that. We've done that. Now I want to come to you, Alfred, and ask you what you want to, if you want to ask anything. But before we do that, I need to share this image with these exceptional light beings of bliss and beauty and magic. You know, I need to share this. My spirit tells me share this with you, because I don't know how it will. Might strike something, it might strike nothing, but this particular thing has held down generations of people, and without us knowing. It is the glass ceiling that has controlled so many of our lives. So I want to share it with you, for those of you who haven't actually seen it. Alfred, hopefully I can share the screen. Let me make sure that I'm on the right image. Yes, it should automatically open up to it. Wait a minute. Let me see how I'm gonna get in there. So share screen. All right, so you can see this, right? I'm gonna make it bigger. This is the badge. I wanna try and make it bigger for you so that you can see. Can you see this angel, and its foot is on this black?
Wow, are you kidding me?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
I'm not kidding you. This is basically what has been handed out from country to country to diplomat. This is the highest medal of honor that you can receive in the UK.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. And this is the reason why I haven't been paid my money. I've made billions of pounds for the UK, worldwide, in 126 countries. My work is famous, so they refuse to pay me. And, you know, I've been through the judiciary. I have, you know, as a creative being, I've contributed so much, and so many so many other melanated people have. And this is what has been at the root of a 17-year journey for me and so many other people. You know, I won the largest case. I sued 10 corporations and I won. And even that they don't want people to know about. So I'm just wanting to know what you feel when you see this as creative individuals. This is what is being handed out to people to make sure that we never rise. What say you on that?
This reminds me of the fight that we're having with all these monuments here in our country that we're beginning to tear down. That needs to be torn down. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the mindset that has created that paradigm in the first place that needs to be changed. I mean, that's just symbolic of how they think about it. Imagine this is an award that they give to dignitaries all around the world. The Queen gives this out to people. And this has been like a secret joke on our heads forever. And I couldn't understand why, as a creative being, you know, that work is celebrated, my work is celebrated, but yet the person, the individual, is hemmed in and kept down, and I couldn't understand why that was. And so I just want to get your feedback. What do you say when you see that? What do you say, David?
It's not surprising. You know, the context, I'm rarely surprised by like blatant racism anymore. Like, you know, you get to a certain point and it's just like, oh, okay. So I appreciate when things like that are pointed out for the larger public to see. Because I think a lot of things just fly under the radar from like the vast majority of the public. And so I appreciate like platforms that choose to share that information with a greater audience.
Yeah.
But that it exists is not surprising.
Okay, thank you. What about you, David?
You know, we're all individuals, you know. For me, I preach maybe even, you know, orally through my work. I don't, and this may even hope it doesn't shock anybody, but I don't think you know, you grow up in Chicago, you hear people like Farrakhan, you hear the things that they speak about and the kind of attitude they want us to have or would preach about. And I kind of accepted a lot of some of the self-determination ideology of Malcolm X and Farrakhan, and that's always played a role in how I think. So I'm not even in that they give out this award, is commonplace to what everything I've seen. But I try to tell people not to try to fall into the establishment, not to fall into needing an Oscar. You don't need a Grammy. You don't need any of these platforms. This is not our, I would say, not our world, almost, not our society. These are what it says on the Constitution of America is really for other people. So I've never really looked at it as seeing something that, well, give me my thing, or give me my 40 acres and a mule or whatever. I'm with the idea of give me some land. I'll set up my own everything. I'll set up my own farm and set up my own way of living. So I don't really look into accepting anything that is, I'm not really, even though I accept being a part of any society, I don't see that as the foundation of who I am. I see the history of who we are as the foundation of what I am first. And that's strength, that's power, that's wisdom, and that's all these amazing things. And so I see that first, and then I see what's around me and see how I fit into that. If I'm not accepted, if these are the awards they give out, it doesn't really bother me. It's showing their character or the character that surrounds me. And so I'm strengthened by this platform, by all the things that I've said, by the words of wisdom, the love that's even on the platform that's telling us to move forward. So
absolutely,
for me to be bothered by that with saying that, I want your Grammy, I want your Oscar, these things make my art. When people love the art, and when Black people love it, and give me
all people love it, irrespective of color. I think that, your genius is very clear. There's nobody that can argue with it. It's just unfortunate that we have this kind of little thorn in the side of our creations and our visions, and I kind of think that we should probably create a new one, the one that should be there. That's the way that I tend to look at this. Okay, maybe we should create a new one and depict it how it should be. What do you think about that? Yeah, just create in terms of, because obviously the new world doesn't
create an Oscar. Create our own platforms. I'm really about
absolutely. This is where
this is the medal we give out to our heroes.
Absolutely,
I don't need of honor, and nor does it give me any strength to have it, or So that's my respect to it. I don't even have any respect for it.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody could. It was a dirty secret, and now people in Jamaica are saying, they're gonna not use it anymore. What say you, Alpha? What do you see when you see that? I mean, your work is extremely, it's very vocal in terms of your stance, as far as looking at the themes that have built these empires, so what say you? Because
hopefully you can hear me. You can hear me. There's a lot going on in the background. I am over in an event space. I don't know. You might hear the DJ any minute.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, when I looked at that, I had to look at it even closer. And those, like the symbols in my work, even on the dollar bill, those are symbols that are, that are part of, how African Americans build up this country. Those are symbols that are, like the Sphinx or the sign, the signage or the symbols. I just looked at that sign and I was like, that looks like another KKK emblem. If you ever look at the cross, when they have on their robes, I don't know if you've ever had a close-up of those, that whole symbol is still part of that whole secret society. You know what I mean? And if you know it, I was looking at the secret society of the UK and the Queen, and it's notorious. You know, I wouldn't want the affiliation with that at all. Like, I don't even want the affiliation with giving, I don't want the Klan to give me anything. I don't want your award. You know what I mean?
But it's actually, I mean, it's been flagged up because it was on the front page of the newspaper, just so people are talking about it. And one of their, I think his name is Michael Palin. He's a famous actor in the UK, and he said that he doesn't want it anymore. They have to redesign it. And so it's opened the conversation, but what we need to do is control the narrative as creative beings, because obviously it's a painting, it's not a photograph, it's a depiction of a mindset of an old paradigm that doesn't have any place in this world anymore, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't have a place.
And I'm seeing that dying out as the, the Queen's reign is coming to it. And I'm seeing a lot of that being filtered through, and they're going to crash and burn like everybody crashed and burned with the World Trade Center crashed and burned and what those buildings symbolized, So the same thing that, example, Alice Walker was given an award back in the mid-90s for her work on single mothers. Well, it was boycotted and taken out of the awards. And this is the awards that they give, the governor's awards out in California. So Alice Walker, who she is, she's a writer, a novelist, and a speaker. She declined the award, and the award was done by a sculpture, but it was a decapitated woman. Where's her head? Where's her arms? Wow. It was just this thing. And it was her saying, I don't want it. I'll come and I'll speak, and I'll come and I'll speak and I'll accept this award, but I won't take the award. I'm going to speak and use this platform to make those that talked against me, that made the governor say, well, we won't give you this award because it's being boycotted. Why it's important to have these excerpts in high school publications or high school books on single parenting, because of the rate of the number of people that are pregnant in the school systems. And you don't want to talk about, you don't want to talk about birth control. So anyway, she just talked about that in her acceptance speech and left the stage, but she didn't accept that award. It was trash to her. Because how are you going to give me an award that symbolizes my body of work and what I'm doing as a person, and it's something that's arbitrary to what I stand for? So I'm just going back that whose art is it anyway? You know what I mean? And how we can again design that narrative of we're not going to use this anymore because it's not representative of why is the angel even there? It's not representative. I don't want the Klan to hand me an award. And I'm thinking because it's the highest award that they could give me in the nation, that it's acceptable. Is it monetary? Is there money coming with it? I can take your money and I can take your acknowledgement, but I don't want your award.
Well, I mean, I think it stands for whoever receives it. Obviously, the secret, the unspoken secret is just that the person ensures that they never assist Black melanated people. They don't support melanated people. It's to see that person will facilitate the machine that seeks to keep every single one of us and anybody that looks like us down. That's what it's for. Yeah. And you get an award to be able to achieve that. And I mean, I think it answered a lot of questions for a lot of people. So anyway, thank you for your contribution there, Alpha. And lastly, well, not lastly, because I have to come to Rose, but before we sign off, Baz, what did you feel about that?
Well, I've been to England before, and that is absolutely bollocks. I cannot believe they have a symbol like that in England and giving it out as a really high honor. And I hope people like, let me think of people like Princess Meghan, that does not accept anything with a medal of such. And I know a lot of people that the Queen give medal to. I cannot believe it's a medal of, it's one of those medals. And all of my uncles, my grandfather's sons, send them all to England so they can go to work. I never expect something like this in England.
Well, this depiction of the fact that it is an institutionally racist, extremely so.
In England, where there's so much Black people live. I would expect this to be in Russia, or in somewhere in not in England?
No, England is unfortunately, Baz, the most racist country in the world. I really believe that.
Wow. I would never guess that.
If you spoke to, we had some people from the panel. I had a journalist on the panel, Natalie Moore, and she's written a book called Remote Control, and she has been chipped involuntarily, microchipped. She went to a
Wow.
dentist, and it's all been, and there's a whole lot of melanated women that have been chipped in the UK. This is what's going on. And you know, I mean, if you, there's a veneer that makes it appear that it's a multicultural society, and you know, we've sort of passed slavery and colonial times, and all of those things are back in the day. No. There's a city called Leicester where 1 in 8 people is a slave.
Well, right now?
Right now,
Leicester.
right now in Leicester, they're chipping people in the UK. They have covert trafficking, human trafficking, huge in the UK. I mean, they're giving out licenses in order for people to enslave people. That's what's been going on in the UK. I unfortunately opened my eyes to work because I went through the judiciary and I sued 10 corrupt corporations. And that's because of intellectual property. I'm a creative spiritual being. And the idea that these people would steal my work was outrageous. And I had no idea what was really going on behind the veneer. And so from my point of view, as a concepts innovator, we create the world. There's a song that I absolutely love. I don't know if you know who Donald Byrd is, but Donald Byrd is a jazz musician, and he's got a song called Designer Nation. And when I look at that image, I see what it should be replaced by. And that is, I think, one of the beauties. It's a bit like the, you know, you are the midwives of the new era. You know, you have the ability to document it, to even, not just even document it, but to design a nation and the world that we want to live in. And it starts with these, to create new symbols and new images. You know, that particular image was secretly created. Who would have known? It's because of this whole George Floyd thing. People are flagging up lots of things that have been hidden for so long, Baz. So yeah, that's where we are, unfortunately. So
well, this is gonna
it
change,
surprises
hopefully.
you. Sorry?
Yeah, this is gonna change.
Yes, we
The world is a
prophesy.
different place right now.
Absolutely.
They touched the right angel, which is George Floyd. That was the wrong person to touch and to do anything with.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
symbol is gonna change.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Baz. I love that.
That would
That's
not
beautiful.
last.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the end of it. It's been there for centuries.
It's gonna change.
Yeah, and it's been there for centuries, for too long. And what say you, Rose? Thank you, Baz. What say you, Rose?
Well, I'm basically a fundamentalist. I saw your medal. It needs to be destroyed and it needs to be stopped. And I think that's the fundamental beginning of where our changes will begin to happen. So we've all been very adept at creating ourselves beyond what we've been given in this world and what we've been given in this culture. And we're very adept at that. And I marvel at the beauty of all the artwork of all of our people here and across the world. But now we're at the point where medals like this, monuments like Christopher Columbus here in Chicago, that has to go and it has to stop. And we'll rebuild something new from that. And that's where I am. I mean, I'll be on the front line with tearing the statues down and burning them and not allowing them ever to go up again.
Absolutely.
And
thank you,
so
Rose.
that's where
Thank
I am.
you. Thank you. Alfred, do you want to say anything before we close?
Well, just that it was very gratifying for me to be a witness here, and that one of the major insights that I got was that art is a universal force, and so that the universality of creating art is a force that can take the artist and the creation, and it just sends you through a portal that so you can transcend all of the duality that exists in the society. And I think that that's what many of the participants like David Niari and others and Alpha and others have been saying today, that it's that the art, the universality of the artist, of the art itself transcends.
Thank you, Alfred. Indeed, I want to say sometimes it's a bit difficult to put things into words, you know, but the level of your insight and wisdom that comes through your art is otherworldly. It really is. And, you know, I showed that at the end because it is a symbol that they've used that piece of art, because essentially that's what it is. It's a piece of art, but it's a piece of art that has controlled and destroyed and made so many people suffer for so long. And it shows the power of art to be able to have such a potent influence on people's lives, on humanity's lives. And it is the time that we're living in says goodbye to those themes, those paradigms. We say goodbye to them. And this, you guys are the new, they're opening the doors for people to see the world in a new way, you know, and carve the world in a new way that we want to live in. And so I say thank you. I just can't thank you enough. I think your work is beautiful. I think your work is powerful. It's inspirational. It's elevational. It's awesome. You all totally rock. Yeah, I mean, we need more mediums where we can see this. People don't get to see, if you don't go to art galleries. There are some people that don't visit art galleries. So I hope that this show today will give people the vision and the inspiration and the desire to look at great art, your works of art, and to follow you and be inspired by it. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Rose. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
David
you.
and David and Baz
Thank
and
you.
Alpha and Soul. Was it the name of the guest that couldn't stay on?
Sholo.
Sholo. We thank you, Sholo, as well. So
She's heartbroken that she couldn't stay. And I said, well, maybe they'll invite us back, Sholo.
yeah, absolutely. Maybe let's hope that it's going to be inspirational to everybody who thinks that melanated people are not the artists of tomorrow and today and yesteryear, you know. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to put all your details, all your contact information within the show. And so we say thank you and good night.
Good night.